Wi-Fi is okay? Okay. I hope those online can hear me. If you can hear me, please type something like a 1 or something like that. Okay. Okay, so welcome to the session today. As we wait for other people to come in, I think I'm gonna ask you guys to get some softwares, okay? First of all, maybe let me ask, have you done any data analysis before? Using other softwares for your field, right? SPSS. Okay. And you? What field are you in? For writing? For writing. Research. What is your major? Management. Okay. All right. Anybody also with a different major, you can be able to write in the chat. Okay, so before we go any further, we're gonna download some software. I hope you guys can see my screen, right? So I will give an introduction of everything, but maybe these softwares might take a bit of time to download. So I'll have you get the softwares first, okay? And I will be sharing the links to that. Actually, let me do this. Yep. Save image. Okay. All right. So we will be needing about 4 softwares, depending on. Actually, I think 4 softwares for almost every scenario that we might need here. So the first one is a software called VS Code. So let me do this. Before we go any further, I'm going to ask you guys to join a group, and I'll share some of the links in that group. So let me get this one. How are you? How are you, sir? Okay. All right. All right, so I've also put a QR code there. If you're not in the group, you can join there, because I'll easily share some of the files inside the group for easier downloading and also archiving later. So if you're not in this group, you can join it from the QR code on the screen. Okay. And for those who are here, this is the Wi-Fi, and I believe there's no password for it. Then the Wi-Fi is just guest Wi-Fi. So you can set up your computer and get that. and let me get you all the links. So we have the first one is I in the group. Are you in the group? You're in the group, right? Yes. Are you in the group yet? Okay. Can you join it up? Okay, okay. QR code again. There we go. Software. So the first one, since maybe the link might be long, on Google, search for VS Code. Okay, so go on Google and search for VS Code like this. VS Code. And we're looking for this first link here. We're looking for VS Code, and you just Google it, get the first link. This is the link if you can be able to copy it, but the simplest way to get it, you can just go on Google and search VS Code, and then you can be able to get that, and you can start downloading it. You click this Windows, and then you can start downloading it. The second one is Node.js. This is an optional download, but it would be good for some things. So Node.js, and the link to that one is this one. The next one is Git. So if you're getting one of the softwares and you can't see it, these are the names here. You can start getting them one by one, and we'll proceed while you're downloading them so that you can already have them at hand. The next one is Git. So those who just want to follow today, you can download this later. I will share these links. But for those who would want to be maybe trying it out as we're talking, then you can go ahead and get this. And then the last one we need is Anaconda. So this one, if you have another Python, if you have ever dealt with Python, you can use whatever Python installation you have. But if you haven't gotten any Python before, you can be able to get the one that we have here. Anaconda. So we are looking for Anaconda. Okay. So for those who are here, if you are ready, you let me know. If there's any question on the download links, please let me know. And I will get you also the setups in the group, just in case if you have your WeChat conveniently logged in, you can have those ones as well. So we're gonna download that. I think the Anaconda one is the largest one. Are we good? Good? All right. Okay, so before we go any further, not yet. Thank you for that, reminding me about that. Let's see. Academia workshop. Okay. Okay. I think let me copy the. Okay. So the software. Okay. Send the software. And you can download these. I think some of these are also tiny. I can be able to send this on the group. Let's see. Let's see if that is possible. Hopefully possible. All right. Okay. So introduction, why you guys are getting the softwares, and I think I can help you with anything about the installation in this period so that maybe if you go home, you can be able to follow up. So you don't have to fight with it so much now. Today, maybe you can just listen and see. And then, but at least I would want you to have all the software by the time that you are on your own, following up and also trying your own processes. So introduction, so my name is Paul Ernest Kajule. I'm from Malawi, and I am studying computer science here, master's. And I am in the domain of AI, mostly on the technical side. So I work with some friends of mine and some colleagues. We have a startup in Malawi for software development, and we build some AI technology. So today I will be speaking on the use of AI in academia based on my experience working with that technology, and also the tips that you might be able to get the best of those AI tools. Because right now you find so many AI tools, and also you also find so many misconceptions. People tell you like, expect this, and you do this, but then not knowing how the things work actually puts you at a disadvantage of not getting the maximum value of those tools. But also sometimes there are so many tools. Today we'll also be showing what are the best tools for specific things. Does that make sense? All right, so we'll begin with AI eras, how it all began, right? AI has been around for so many years, so many years. In fact, like we've had periods of time where we have had AI innovations, and then at some point there are gaps that are called AI winters. So it's like every time there's like a new innovation, you always have a lot of hype in AI. You hear people telling you everything is going to change, right? You're going to find that all your jobs are going to go away. And as time goes, you find that every single major step that we go in with AI, there will always be a ceiling, like a limit to how those tools can be done. And then you find a gap. Many, many years, people, stop maybe innovating or talking about it a lot until you find another breakthrough that progresses that whole limitations that we currently have. And we have had like face recognition is AI, right? If you go on the gate, face recognition is AI. We've had translation is also AI. There was a time when people used to do translation as a major. They would go to school just for translation. They still do, but not to a higher degree as they do now, because at some point, when people figured out that you could do translation with AI, that whole set of work became a little bit reduced, right? In terms of, because the accessibility of that technology made it so much easier to access. And then you had all of these also, they wouldn't say, be like chatbots, for example. When the period when we had Siri and Google Assistant and Amazon, Alexa, there was also this hype like, okay, I think we've reached somewhere. But you find that those tools, in terms of the expectation and what they can deliver, was also very limited, right? So at some point, people also just became normal with that. It was no longer innovation, but also it couldn't do so much. Until, for so many years, we also had another gap, until we had ChatGPT. That's when everybody now started talking about AI. And the thing that you should be very cautious about is that every time you hear that AI is doing something, like there will always be a new innovation that people are mostly capitalizing on two factors. One, academic papers, and two, marketing, right? Most of the tools that you're having now are based on some company trying to see what they can market, right? So they will give you so many keywords and also so many use cases and also so many promises that might not be on par with what is actually possible, because there are two agendas there. People want to make money, but also for the academicians, it means that now the people who are in computer science, now they've found a whole domain that they can focus on, right? So every time you put an AI on a paper, the paper is now more valuable, right? So definitely you're going to have so many materials coming out from that whole domain, because now we have a new innovation that has pushed us from the last limitation that we had. So you have to be very careful when you're looking at those things, right? Because now you have to be practical. If you try out some of those tools, you will know what is possible and what is also not possible. And also, you should not be very limited to who, let's say you're a fan of ChatGPT, right? Shouldn't be a fan to just say okay, I can only use ChatGPT. That is limiting yourself in accessing the abilities of all the available options. Because at this point, since you have so many providers, right, it is at your advantage to try to find the best for both. Right now, the methods that we're using for AI have come to almost a little bit of a level. Everybody now has a general understanding of what they should do to be able to achieve the ChatGPT type experience, right? And now, what is most important is the product. What kind of product that you're looking for is using that AI model the best for you. So for example, if you want to do, let's say, maybe just general questions, right? Maybe ChatGPT might be enough. But then if you want to look for academic papers, I will show for an example for this, right? You will find another AI that is good at, let's say, finding your academic papers and doing summaries, but is still using that same ChatGPT model at the base. The issue here is that people are now finding the best ways to make good products out of those AIs. And if you limit yourself to just say oh, I'm a ChatGPT fan, the Google one is not good, you really lose out on all the available capabilities. What you need to be, yes? Yes. Yeah. So you need to find the best product for the job you're doing. If you're doing writing, go find the best tools for writing. If you're doing data analysis, go find the best tools for data analysis. If you're doing programming, go find the best models and the best products that are good for that, because then you really lose out if you try to limit yourself with just one product. Because now you should know that this is both a capital game. People are trying to make money out of all of this, and also people are trying to write a lot of papers on this, because now every time you put AI on something, it sells, it publishes. Does that make sense? Yeah. So AI has been around all this time, but the new phase that we have now of AI is called generative AI. So generative AI is AI that takes existing material, right, and is able to produce new ones from all of that old material. Okay? So this comes in different forms. You have the video, generation, right? You see people making AI videos now, they're all over the place. You find people writing text. So this is the GPT one, right? So generative AI for text, right? It can write, it can keep writing, it can write anything because it's basing that on all the writings that the internet has ever had. They train those AI models on all the data from the internet, right? And then you have other ones that are doing images. So you have, like, if you've heard of Nano Banana, right? People are using AIs to produce images. ChatGPT can do it, Google can do it. So that is also same, generative AI. AI that can produce something based on all the data that has existed before, right? So that's why you hear people saying, like, oh, these things cannot create anything new because it's based on previous works, because actually at the fundamental basis, it's using the data that has been existing already. So you find a lot of inspiration and also similarities to things that you have already seen. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. So how it works. Now we're gonna focus maybe on the one for text. So think about ChatGPT like a big autocomplete. For example, your keyboard before ChatGPT, if you were to say, like, your phone keyboard, right? If you were to say, I am going to, it will suggest for you market, right? School, right? Or if you say I passed, then it will suggest exam. You get the point? So this form of, like, autocomplete has always been around, right? It's normal. It's still practically AI, or in some scenarios, maybe just a little bit of clever patterns and logic, right? But we've all had this. So when you're thinking about ChatGPT, right, at the core, think about a very, very big autocomplete program, okay? The way they make a model like ChatGPT, generative AI, is they take all the data they can find on the internet, all of it, as much as they can, right? And then they train a model that is just good at completing some words based on what has happened before. So, for example, if you were to start writing to say, like, okay, my name is Paul, I am in computer science, I am studying, right? That model, when after they finish training everything, it's just very good at completing what is being said than in comparison to what is written before. So if you give ChatGPT right now, say, like, my name is Paul and everything like that, at the model before we make the product, it is just a good autocomplete model. It just continues writing. It just continues writing. It just continues. This was the innovation that happened for us to have this whole era of this new AI ChatGPT model. They had been making, like, chatbots, but they were not so good. And the innovation here was, there was a hypothesis of, what if we gave it so much data and we could see what it could do? And they did. They tried to get as much of the internet as they could. They trained it, and they made a very good model that could just, whatever you give it a paragraph of text, you start writing something. At the core, before you make a product out of it, it just knows how to keep writing very good language, right, based on everything that all of us have been writing on the internet, okay? So at the core, think about ChatGPT like a big autocomplete model. You give it some text, it's just very good at writing what comes after based on what it's about. Does that make sense? So the innovation here came in. What if you could trick this model to be able to be useful by giving it some instructions and then writing some steps to say, like, oh, Paul said this, what do you say next? So in the most common setup that you have for, like, ChatGPT, what is actually happening behind is there's a message that you don't see that is called a system prompt that says, you are ChatGPT. Welcome. Yeah. All right. Welcome. All right. So think about it like this. Every time you're using ChatGPT, any tool like ChatGPT, you should think that there is a setup like this. There is a hidden message that you don't see. It's called a system prompt. That says, you are ChatGPT. Your name is ChatGPT. You are a very useful assistant. Your job is to be helpful. Whatever the user says, right, help them. You get the point? If this was, okay, and then the next thing would be you saying it, right? Paul said, how are you today? So if you think about this, if this was a book, right? If this was a book saying, like, chapter 1, this is a book telling us about how somebody was interacting with another person, right? And if you were to structure that dialogue, it'd be like, okay, so this person was talking to a friend, right? and the friend was an expert at, let's say, academic writing, right? The expert was a friend was an expert at academic writing. And then Paul said, how are you doing? Well, how are you doing today? What can I learn about AI? Then definitely, in our simple intuition, the next thing what an expert would say would be like, okay, today I can teach you about so. You get the point? So all the models that you have right now for like ChatGPT and these generative AI models, that's practically what they are. It's just tricking the AI into having a conversation and completing it as if you're writing a story. So there's a system prompt that says, you're ChatGPT, you're useful, help the person with anything that is useful, and then the next message that comes is your message, saying, user said, or Paul said, how are you today? Obviously, if this was a dialogue in a book, the next part would be like, then ChatGPT said, I am doing fine. Does that make sense? So all the AI models that you have right now, actually that is how they're working at the base. So if you understand this, there's actually more use and also much more clever strength that you can get out of these models if you know how these things work. For example, sometimes I say that if you're doing like chats for ChatGPT or something like that, it is always best to have dedicated chats for a specific task. Let's say for one day you are doing translation, right? You can just have a chat for translation, because what happens is if you have so much, if that conversation is being driven in one direction, it means that now all of that conversation is very focused. And if you understand that these models, right, all they're doing is practically completing a story like in a book, that becomes very useful than a conversation where you're having 6 different topics in one conversation. You get the point? Because you're jumping all over. And every single word that is coming above the previous conversation is affecting the next result. Does that make sense? If you've ever seen scenarios where this used to be common in the early stages, but now as products have come, people are refining them, right? You have like an AI is talking to you, but after like 30 messages, it starts, being weird, it's talking about different things that are not relevant to what you wanted it to do. It was the same issue about understanding the previous conversation. As the data is becoming too big, right, the focus of the direction or how the story can be completed is changing. You understand? And now, for most of the software companies, they have found ways to handle that in the back, right, so that nobody's really thinking about it. But you, as a user, if you know that this is how things work, you can have a really, really impactful usage. Another thing that, like, for example, another thing that you can do with some of these chatbots, let's say you have a chat, you can try it. Normally, there's a system prompt that you don't see that says, your ChatGPT, you do this. On your own, you can actually, the first message in that conversation, you can tell it like, okay, so today, ChatGPT, you are an expert at, let's say, cooking, right? You are a master chef. You can tell it, you can try it. You're a master chef at cooking. You're very good at cooking, let's say, South American cuisine, right? I am cooking this dish. Can you give me how to do it as an expert? You find that the responses to that will be very, very different from you just coming to say like, okay, can you tell me the recipe for cooking this? Okay? Because that first message above of telling it what it is really affects the answers that are coming after. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's pretty much a beginning of how the models work. So other words that I'll be mentioning now are things like, okay, before I go further, I think you maybe have some of these softwares already, but if you don't, let me put this. I shared these in the group. How are you? How are you doing? You're not in the group, right? Okay, so here. There's Wi-Fi here and also the group. So, yeah. So you can join that. And the softwares, maybe some of you might not be able to follow everything and install everything, but I'd love you to have at least a software today so that later on, if you're following up, I have helped you resolve any installation issues with the softwares, okay? So today at least you can listen, and then later on you can practice, and then you can message me anytime to deal with your specific issues, okay? But at least have the softwares before leaving here, or by the end of this session. Okay, so another thing that you should think about is in all of these AI models, right? every single model you have plenty. Like ChatGPT has maybe 6 main versions, right? The ChatGPT now they're reaching like 5, right? But they have like 5.1, 4.2, right? Many versions, and everybody has all of these models. The differences that you have with these models is that, one, the size. Some train the large amounts of data they can get on the whole internet, right? And you have so much data. There will be like a really large model. So that one will probably be more intelligent and also probably more fluent in answering the best results from whatever you're talking to it about. And then you also find that there are media models that are smaller, right? So they have probably less data, but also they can handle less processing, and they're also much cheaper to operate. And then you have small ones. If you go on the ChatGPT, you see maybe there'll be like for ChatGPT 4, maybe the main one, and then there'll be like mini, and then there'll be nano, if you have seen some of these options, right? If you, let's actually, okay, I'll be showing examples from this. I hope this is not affecting the audio. Okay. So you find this in almost every single AI chatbot, right? Let's see here. If you look at this, you find that there's a model ChatGPT 4, there's mini, then there's nano, right? So the differences in this is the size of the model. Most of these models are the main model, right? It's usually very big. Like they usually maybe train it on so much data, but also at the end of the day, the model that is remaining is also very large. So it can probably give you the best answers, but also it costs a lot of money to run. Okay, so you should keep this in mind because it will also help you understand the reasons of why sometimes you get different types of results. Then you have mini and nano as well. So smaller. The smaller ones will probably be much faster because they are small and they can be able to handle things much faster, but the quality of the answers will not be the same. Long time ago, before ChatGPT 5, in ChatGPT 4, you could switch before. I bet now, I haven't been on ChatGPT for a long time, but if you go on ChatGPT now, I would assume that it's just ChatGPT 5, and then it automatically switches because I have read the implementation articles that they give. The reason why is, in ChatGPT 5, they decided that they were going to be automatically switching for you based on the amount of work you're doing. That comes to the reasoning about the cost. So if you've ever heard people saying like AI like waste water, I don't know if you've ever seen articles of people saying like they're installing a data center in USA in a state, it's going to finish our water, right? And some people say like AI finishes a gallon of water just for a conversation. There's truth to this. So to operate AI models, right, they need a lot of computers in one space, and those computers need a lot of cooling and electricity. So to operate any of these models, they need a lot of computers and a lot of power, and every single conversation you have to say like, how are you doing? That is actually costing a calculated amount of electricity and a calculated amount of cooling water. You understand? So this is an example that people say. They say that your conversation of just saying how are you doing finishes a gallon of water. Maybe the amount might not be factually correct, but there's some truth to it. Because every single data center that is installed in any area needs a lot of water to cool the whole system, but also needs a lot of electricity to run. Therefore, all of these models actually have a cost to how much you use them. So if you can see here, ChatGPT 4.1, it costs it costs $2 for a million tokens. I'll explain what tokens is. But consider them like words, right? So to simplify this, let's just say it costs ChatGPT, this model costs $2 to be able to give you 1 million words, okay? That's a simple way of understanding it, simplifying it a lot. Tokens are not words, but we can equate them to that. See this mini? It costs $0.4 for a million outputted words, right? And then you see this one, nano, it costs $0.1 to be able to answer you 1 million words. But if you ask the same questions, you see that the weight or the quality of all of these answers will be very different. So now, if you use the free ChatGPT, what is happening is they have realized that like this is costing them money. Ever since the company that makes ChatGPT started, they've been making losses every year in billions of dollars. They're burning money because they're hoping that at some point everybody's going to catch on to this, but also they'll find a profitable way of making money. Does that make sense? Because all of these operations, like there's a small percentage of people who actually pay for ChatGPT, and the rest of you are using it for free. And at the beginning, you had the choice to choose this $2 model, right, out of your own choice. But they saw that this is not economically viable because then every single question that you give it is actually costing them money. So now ChatGPT 5 is called more of like a router. It's like something that just chooses what is the best thing to use in that scenario based on your question. Does that make sense? Because now this is actually costing money. So if you're looking at the tools to use for your AI generation, let's say you're doing academic writing. You just want to have a conversation. The Nano would be fine, right? You just have a simple question. Nano would be fine, right? If you're doing academic work, if we're saying that the main models are more heavier and give more comprehensive answers, then it would not be very advisable for you to be using a Nano model for your thesis. Does that make sense? Because then you're going to be getting half-baked answers and also quick answers because you're using the smaller model for whatever reason, either because of the platform you're using or because of your choice. So if you understand that these things cost money, but also each and every single model has a different weight to what they can give you as answers, then you have better choices in what you're doing. If you just want to have a good, simple, fast conversation, then Nano would be perfect, right? You just want to have a cooking recipe, that's fine. If you're not doing academic writing, then definitely at your own best interest, it would be best for you to try to get the best, heavier models because then those ones will give you more comprehensive, heavier answers. Does that make sense? Are we good? Hi. Yeah. Have you guys brought no computers, right? You haven't brought any computers, right? No. You have a computer. All right. Since you might want to try some of these things out later. There are these softwares here, and I'd advise you. You might not need to follow them now, but I'd like you to have them before you leave, because then I can help you with any installation issues that you might have. You can send the group. These links are in the group, so you can join the group as well. Okay, I will share these things in the group after. Is that okay? Before I go any further, do you have any questions? Any questions?
So basically, what I get is, for example, with ChatGPT,
Yeah.
we have the free version, we will get one type of answer. If we have the premium version, the answers will be different.
So now, in the current version of ChatGPT, like let me. I haven't been on ChatGPT for a long time, but let's check it out. ChatGPT.com. Yeah. So if you're on the free version, they'll probably have an intentional direction to which model you're using. You might not have so much control over the model you're using. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? If you pay, you have given them enough money to allow them to prioritize the heavier models for you because you have paid for it. Or you might have the choice to switch. Does it make sense? I don't know if this is a VPN thing. It might be a VPN thing. I hope I don't affect this so much. Okay, here we go. You see this? These days, it either just says ChatGPT or just says ChatGPT 5, right? You might not have, you see this? But if you go in the technical details that they give programmers, they will tell you that there is no something just called ChatGPT. They're different models, and all of them have different weight, right, the size, and also different cost in money. But for somebody who is this is a free account, they're not giving you that choice because they want to maintain that ability to choose which models are based on the economic value that you're giving them. Does that make sense? But you find these same ChatGPT models in other products because by default, all providers who make AI models also allow you to use their models to make other products. Because now the bar of what an AI chatbot model can do is almost the same with everybody. The key right now is what good product can you make out of those models. And they still benefit from this because if you're using like a ChatGPT model for your product, you still pay them the same amount of money to be able to run those models, so they don't mind. So you find so many AIs right now that are telling you like, oh, we are this AI. They're not really making that AI in their company. They're using all these same existing models. You're gonna find other AIs and you'll be telling somebody like, oh, this is better than ChatGPT. It's still ChatGPT at the base, but the innovation there is how you're using the model to do something. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that's why I was saying in the first beginning as well that like don't take it like a party. Be like, okay, I'm team ChatGPT, right? Find the best product for the specific tool because most of these AI models at the base, their job, as I said, it's a big autocomplete model. The innovation is how much product can I like make out of it, and it's in your best interest to find the best tool doing the job you want, still using the same AI models. Right now, these models actually take so much to either gather the data, but also train. They take months to train. Like, you don't see ChatGPT versions every month because like these things take planning, maybe like 6 months or 3 months just to train. So like the model that way right now, ChatGPT 6 probably has already been training for months already, or they're preparing. If you're going to see ChatGPT 6, it would mean that it's probably taken almost a year of preparation just to get it ready, right? Collecting the data, probably months. Training it, definitely months. 3 months, 6 months, and then forming it into a product, also another couple of months. Does that make sense? And then at the end of the day, they'll make like a big model, a smaller model, and a more tinier model just for cost efficiency, but also specific use cases. Does that make sense? Any questions? Any questions from? Okay, so the softwares, you're gonna get them, right? Let me ask some majors here. Which major are you? Tourism management. Okay. Education. And you? Which level? Masters. Okay. And you? Computer science. And you? Civil engineering. Okay. And education. Management. Okay. Yeah. So for some, they might have a general understanding of maybe some familiarity with AI models, and then for some, you just maybe want to know the what's the thing called? The using of these new AI tools, right, for your academic writing. I am giving this context behind of how everything works because even for people who are in computer science but they're not specifically dealing with generative AI models, you might still need that information to know how to best use those models. Okay? Yeah. So I think we're now on the third point. So if you have any gaps that you might want me to go back on, you can let me know. But right now we're here. Okay? So I talked about the models, right, being having the issue of size, right, and cost, and also I'd say competence, right? The other thing that limits models is called context. So context, if you think about it, is like in the generative AI sense, when you're doing ChatGPT type products, context is like if you're having a conversation to say like, hey, ChatGPT, I want you to help me with my thesis. And then you have a whole conversation, right? This conversation has, I'd say, a size, right? If you're talking to say like you're progressing, you're iterating, you're having conversation, all of these things, as we said, they have actually measurable size. It's called tokens. So as I said, tokens, they're not specifically words, but for the simplicity of this, I'll equate them to words. Sometimes you can have 2 words, but 1 word, but maybe with 2 tokens, but it's like divisions of words, right, including spaces and everything. So for this case, I'll simplify it to words. So as I showed you here, in this example here, all of these models cost money, right? They cost money to operate and run. And actually, if we go to the actual technical documentation of this, there are 2 costs. There's the cost of asking, and then there's the cost of receiving, okay? So the cost of asking is based on that amount of words you have in that conversation. Because as I said, all these AI models are practically autocomplete models. So it means that every single question, you actually send the whole conversation. Every single time you talk to ChatGPT and say like, hi, how are you doing? You actually you start from the top. It takes all of that conversation you've had inside so that it can give you the result, because as we said, it's practically a big autocomplete model. So for it to actually give you what is the next, it would need to factor in the whole, right? If I think about this like a book, right? The next chapter in the book is only based on the previous chapters. Does it make sense, right? So every single time you are sending the question, you take the whole part and then send it. And as this thing is growing, it's being counted, right, in tokens. And some of these models have a maximum amount of memory they can hold at once before they start giving you nonsense. Sometimes you probably had experience with this. If you're in a ChatGPT conversation, you start talking, and then at some point it starts forgetting what you spoke about before, and you're like we talked about this, right? That comes to that issue of context, the context side. If you have too much data in that conversation, it starts getting missed out, because all of these models actually have, we can maybe simplify to say like a memory, but the actual word is context. They have a limit to how much they can, keep in their mouth before giving you relevant answers. And all of these models also have different ones, like for example, at this point, the models provided by Google are the ones, these Gemini models, are the ones that have some of the biggest amount of memory they can hold at once. Some of it is like maybe millions of tokens. If you go, let me give you an example. Let me show you one place that shows the different models, their costs, and also their memory, their context windows, right? You see the differences. So let's explore models here. You see that some models actually have a very small memory, and then some models have very large memory. So it means that in your use cases, it's also very important for you, if you can understand which models can hold more memory, you understand for what kind of use case you want to do it. Let's say I want to have, I have a couple of articles, right? And then I want to be able to feed in the AI for me to give you an analysis, right? It would be very, very counterproductive to use a smaller model for that, because definitely those books are huge. It's thousands of pages, right? You're going to start getting degraded results very faster than if you would intentionally go to a model that can handle so much information before it runs out of memory. Does that make sense? So look at this. So right now we have so many model providers, right? Some of them probably you've never heard of. Some of them are known. So for example, this is Qwen. This is a Chinese model made by the Chinese companies, Alibaba and all of them, right? That contributing to advance in the AI so that they can also reach to the same level as ChatGPT and everything. So you see this? There's a context. What does this mean? You have about 262,000 words, tokens practically, but in simplicity, words before this model starts degrading in result, right? So this is not like an assumption, it's a reality. You can still try to feed it more data, but as time goes, you realize that the answers you're getting are not as good quality as you were getting it before, right? You see that? Some of them are so small, right? You see this? Now we have another model here. This is by Claude, right? One of the competitors of ChatGPT. You see this? It's 1 million. So it means that this model can handle a lot more. But now look at the money that it costs, right? It's $25 per million tokens, right? So all of these things actually come into factor with all the tools that you're using for AI. Every single company that is giving you AI products is thinking about all of these things at the same time. Long time ago, when you were using ChatGPT before, they'll limit you, you're going to have more than 25 words after this. They start a new conversation, right? The reasoning was the same thing, context window. They knew that the more you fed text in it, it's going to reach a point, it's going to be degrading the result, so they would just force you to start a new conversation. Nowadays, as an adaptation to this, usually they would cheat how things are happening. At some point, if you don't want to start a new chat, you're still talking, they make a summary of what you have done above. Then in the actual fact of what is happening is, at some point, everything you wrote before now gets summarized into a short form. That's why you end up finding that the AI is forgetting some of the things that you spoke about, because now, going forward, you're just having a summary of whatever happened above. Does that make sense? So it means that also, if you're doing a writing and you're using an AI chatbot, you should be thinking about this. If I want to get the best use of my AI tools, definitely then I should structure my chats so that one is specific, right? Doing one job at a time. It means that that chat can, one, be very focused. Two, any of the content in that conversation will be actually feeding the model to give me good results going forward, right? And also, I'm not wasting that space, right? Because the moment I finish it, we're losing data because the context window is finished, especially for those free apps. The ones that are like ChatGPT free, because then they can choose a smaller model for you intentionally because they're saving money, especially if you keep having those long conversations, right? So if you're having that, keep that in mind, right? Make specific chats, right? Focus on what you're talking about in the conversation. Also, know when the context is too much to a point where I think you should start a new chat, because then you're just like having diminishing returns, right? The more you do, you're getting worse and worse results. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is now in general. Now, in my recommendations from experiencing these tools, I would tell you this. If you have large amounts of data and you just want to do some, not calculatable analysis, but just an overview of so many files, right? The best models that have larger context are the Gemini models, the Google models. So if by today, because most of us are probably not paying for ChatGPT Pro, right? If you want to go and you have some files, 4 or 5 big files, right? You want to have just a conversation out of like the AI model to actually give account of everything that is existing. The Gemini models, the Google ones, are the best for that. If you go on the free ChatGPT and you go feed it 4 or 5 books that are 1,000 pages long, surely you start getting some nonsense, okay? And this will come to an example that I have here. So I have my sister is also studying, and she had like, I think she had 4 books. She was preparing for an exam, right? And she ended up using ChatGPT free, right? The ChatGPT to feed the books, and then she started asking it questions. And this was based on stuff that she had already read, you know. But then she started fighting with the model because some of the answers it was giving was like obviously wrong, right? This was just fresh conversation, fed it the books, and then like it was talking about something that was very contradictory to something that she had actually read on a page. And then she fought with it, like, hey, but this is not correct. And then it's like, no, it's correct. And then, no, it's not. You know, she kept doing that. At some point, it was like, oh, yeah, that's true. It is correct. I'm so sorry, and I'm very happy that you actually, you know, continued to fight with me. That was very, very true. And when she came to me, she's like, why is this happening? And I could understand. The first question was, which model, which AI are you using? She said, ChatGPT. Is it free? It said, yes, free. I can understand why. Now, she has 4 books. All these books are huge, hundreds of pages, right? So by default, definitely, you have a large context window. And we have talked about the money that these models cost, right, with the amount of size. If I was a company, I would do the same thing. If I'm a company and I want to still have free users, and they come and dump 1 million words, yeah, I'm going to give you a smaller model, because then I don't want you costing me like $25 just for a conversation that you're not going to actually end up paying me for. Does it make sense? Because these things actually cost money, and they have a size, and they also have, you know, a consequence to that conversation. Does that make sense? Yeah, so think about it. You should think about that as well. So every single time you're like, okay, I have this type of job, it's too many books, go to Google, because the Google, by default, some of their models have the largest context sizes, right? And you do that. If you just want a simple conversation, you're on ChatGPT, it's okay, you can do that. If you can control the models, or if you have Pro, that's good. Understand? Does that make sense? Yeah. Another thing, so as we said, since all of these models are autocomplete, right? Having important information in your conversation, in the context, right, in that data, is very, very important for you to get the best result. And that is going to be evident in the data analysis that I'm going to be sharing here. The workflow that I would recommend, as somebody who deals with these models and these products every day, I would recommend you this workflow, because we're taking into account all of these factors. For most people who are having data analysis now, right, they use ChatGPT. They'll get maybe an Excel sheet of data. They'll go to ChatGPT. They'll tell it to write me a Python script. And they'll go back to Python. They'll run it. It will have errors. They'll go back, right? They will do that like 6, 7 times, and it will be very annoying. By the time they're having really good results, it's very, very probably painful and a very long process. The reason why this happens is context, as we said, right? The data you have before you run anything is very important to AI. So if you give it, let's say, an Excel sheet, and then it gives the data, the first code it gives you, and you run that code, in most cases, for the most basic person, for the most average amount of person, the response you have about the issues that have happened with this code, going back to ChatGPT, will definitely have some human error. Right? So you carry on biases, the things you think are wrong, right? some of the errors that the computer will give you, you might not even be able to grasp every single thing. You go back to ChatGPT, and surely ChatGPT will answer you based on your bias and whatever you told it is happening on the other side. Does that make sense? So definitely, that is like it is a shortfall that we can be able to fix to help you get the best out of your your workflows. Does that make sense? I hope we are now close to understanding how these things work. Before we go any further, do you have any questions? Have you ever had any weird scenario with AI and you're like, how does that work? We can talk about it before we go any further.
My question is on the part you said when they talking about computers that getting that results.
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT has this thing where it says when it reaches the more like the limit of like the day, it says it starts again maybe after 24 hours.
Yeah.
The question there is this long 24
Period.
after 24 hours, does this previous long conversation still affect the next responses it is going to give in the new research or?
Okay. All right. So the first thing now there, the limits, the ones that say come back tomorrow, come back, 24 hours, those ones are monetary decisions. They are more of like ways of converting. This is the marketing people telling them like, you should do this so that we can convert people into money. Okay? So as we said, every single time you send a conversation to any model like ChatGPT, you send the whole chat, right? So it means that either today or tomorrow, the result will be the same. Unless if the product is summarizing the conversation. And in some AIs, they will tell you, we are summarizing everything. Some will not tell you because they want to have like a seamless conversation, but that is what is happening at the base, because that's the reality of how these models are operated, right? So if you have like a book and you're about to write chapter 2, right? Based on whatever chapter 1 is written, if that doesn't change, it means that anytime, either you do it today or tomorrow, it will still be the same result, as long as the content behind it does not change. So if it's tomorrow, assuming that they did not summarize your text, definitely your answers will be the same. The time will not matter, because the moment you're sending everything at that moment back before you get an answer of what is the right autocomplete answer to the previous data. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any other question? So for most of those ones, the limits, it's usually monetary, right? You find other companies have so much money to burn. Like, they allow users to burn money. In fact, when OpenAI first started, Microsoft gave them $10 billion, not to do anything, but to literally burn, like use it for the machines, allow people to use it, because the goal here was get as many people familiar with this, get them using this in their workflow, so that at some point this becomes something that they cannot live without, or they can convert to money later, or it can be profitable. And at this point, it's still not profitable. They're burning billions of dollars every year, still, for the same reason, because these things at this point, so far, economically it's not working, because these models cost so much money, and they're still trying to incentivize having free members, right? And at some point, yeah, definitely not everybody wants to pay for this, so this model has to continue for a while. Does it make sense? So those limits usually monetary based, right, to convert you. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of these things. If you know these things, you know that, okay, I have work here, I'm done, I can finish my limit here, go to another application that is offering similar model, continue my work, right? Because then most of these models are using the same. If you know how to use it, you can do work with some of these free available slots, right, to the best of your ability, because you understand that, yeah, most of these models are the same. If I know how to use them well, I know to control which models I'm using, I can get the best out of anything. Does that make sense?
The other additional form,
Yeah.
selecting the model is one thing, as you say.
Yeah.
The other thing, based on the input that you give,
Yeah.
the output depends on the way you test.
Yes.
So the quality of the output, one thing, type of model that you select is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. The context.
And again, the way we request.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very important. That's why they give a training on
Prompt.
engineering for
Yes.
ChatGPT or DeepSeek, whatever.
Yeah.
So we need to be also careful when we ask.
How you ask.
Because the way we ask is a bit confusing. The output is also
Confusing.
gonna be,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
Maybe you can use there are some tools
Hmm.
which enhance our own
Okay.
So
Now.
you should consider also the selection.
Okay. All right. I'll talk. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That's what the experience that I have.
True. 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 So as you said, that's a very complete true point. What you get what you're asking for, right? So be careful how you ask because your input actually affects what your output. Sometimes you can have a naive guess, right? It's like, okay, this is what you think you might want, but it might not necessarily be what you need, right? So as I said, there are guides, there are tips. One thing for that, for the prompting, right? In most cases, now this is another thing that you actually, when you start seeing it, you realize that it's a bit tricky, okay? Most tools that are helping you to do certain things are still using the same models. Okay? I will give an example. Right now, if you recall, I think I don't have maybe a setup for this, but if you make a call to Google Gemini to say like, I want an image of a cat, right? They will have two versions of your message. The other version is like, what is it called? An enhanced version, right? The reasoning is early on when the ChatGPT models were having, right, this input question was a big thing, right? You are getting really bad results, and it was showing like that the products are not so good just because of how we were all entering the questions. So in some products, they do enhance the question automatically to help you with output. And the thing is that sometimes for a majority of the tools that you might go to enhance your message are still using the AI models. So the question is, it's like you're going there, the product is practically, okay, the user wants you to modify this text to make it better for an chatbot. And then you say like, I want to do the analysis for something. Then we use the same AI models to improve your question and then ask the question. Does it make sense? So practically and mathematically right now, there is no pattern-based way that you can actually go to a tool and say, improve this text, right, in computer science.
What I'm saying is, for example, mostly as a researcher,
Yeah.
when we're writing our manuscript,
Yeah.
we use rewrite, yeah? For
Yeah.
example, we write and then put in the text.
Yeah.
It doesn't give sense, you know?
Yeah.
We put like an academic standard.
I understand. Actually,
When you are adding this, it's
yeah.
different from the
I'm supporting your point. Yeah, I'm supporting your point, actually. So what I'm trying to say here is, what you should do now is, right, you can actually have a chat that is just used for improving your text. You don't have to specifically go to another tool, right? You can have ChatGPT tell you, like, you are a prompt improving conversation, right, an assistant. So it means that if you actually want that assistance in the proofing, you don't have to go another tool. Because as we said, all these tools are still using the same models at the base, right? So this is actually a very important point. So sometimes if you want to enhance your conversations, you could go another tool, or you could still use the same chatbots, right? To be like, hey, can you improve? I'm about to use this for this is my intention. Can you give me a good prompt, right? And then you use it for the chat that you're having with that. Does it get sense? Do you get what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, that point is good, but now the takeaway that I want you guys to have is that actually take advantage of the same AI tools to help you improve the questions you're going to be having. Does that make sense?
by
Yeah.
checking what
Yes, and do read.
check that.
Do read the content. We're good? You actually, there are more examples I have of this that, like, when you see it, you can't unsee it, right? There are so many things that are being dressed up like, hey, this is just doing this, but it's still all ChatGPT at the base because, like, and if you see it, you find out that you can make the best use of these tools and you don't have to go maybe pay money or maybe go subscribe something else, because then if you know that you can make the AI do anything, then you can just make it do anything. Does that make sense? Okay. So yeah, find the best model for the tools. So I'm going to give you these so far. I'm going to give you, as I mentioned for you, right? General conversation, ChatGPT is pretty good. The free one, the limit there is you cannot control the model size. Therefore, if you have too much big text, you might have some sort of limitations when the context is too big, right? So for large amounts of text, Google. Most of the base models for Google have a bigger context size, right? General conversation, you can have ChatGPT. For coding, right? For coding, if you're writing code, which will still factor in the data analysis, right? When you benchmark and you also use it in the field. Like I'm in the field of like I don't do like AI model development, but I do model implementation in systems. That's what I do most of my every day, right? I'm mostly dealing with this, and I'm trying out different models, and I'm also reading out the technical reports and everything. The best model so far that is really good at coding is Claude, right? If you compare the results of like the base model, let's say the same model that came with ChatGPT, and at the same time as the one for OpenAI, the ones who make ChatGPT, and then the ones who make Claude, and then the ones who make the Google models, right? The best model quality of coding is Claude, of which, if you actually see that, right, all of these models can write code, but like the one time to say like I have a question, right, I have a job, like which one can do it the best result without many iterations? Claude is one of the best, okay? So in our intention, and I will give you this, I'll give you this as a tip, right, and including the setup that we're trying here, is for us to be able to use that model for in a more affordable way to do the data analysis, because if you compare any results, so you can have an Excel sheet, give it ChatGPT, say, give me a data analysis code. It'll be okay, but at the same bar level, if you were to tell Claude to do that job, it would be a bar higher than what you get. It will still be correct, but Claude so far, from the technical reports, but also from my experiencing it, using it, right, for like assisting me with my work, everything that I'm doing, I would tell you that Claude is the best one for coding. So if you can have access to it and you're doing data analysis, so much the better, because this model is really good at coding. Therefore, if you can be able to access it for data analysis, you get the really nice results. Does that make sense? So large amounts of data, but Claude costs so much money. One of their models costs $75 per million tokens. It's really expensive. Therefore, you have to use providers who are giving it out at a subsidy, okay? Of which I will show you again who does that. Does that make sense? So Claude is known for its expensiveness, and but it's really good at the coding. So dedicated tools for general, yeah, okay, so the dedicated tools are better than general. So as we said, right, since we're having all of these models are using these chatbots to do products, it is best for you to choose a specific product to do a specific thing, because then that has been optimized to help you in that sense of direction. So you just going to ChatGPT to do, let's say, everything might not be as efficient as you going to elicit to look for academic papers, because even though they might be using the same models, but the product itself has been aligned and given the right tools and context to be able to give you the best result, right? So specified dedicated tools that are using AI are much better than general ones, because general ones may not have all the trying to cater to the masses, and therefore you don't specify in any, right? But if you have specific ones, most of the product engineering will go into feeding it all the necessary data, maybe having specific system prompts that even allow it to do a better job at the specific thing that you're looking for, right? So, so for example, as we said, we have if you're looking for, let's say, collecting papers, where's Elicit? Elicit. Okay, we can just Google it. So, Elicit does not make any AI models, but they use AI models at the base as well, like ChatGPT or Google models, to help you with this. The good thing about this, as we said, this is a product, they have made sure that they've given it access to all the relevant papers, right, to help you with some like literature review. You know, if you're looking for papers that are specific to like a specific job, you use it, right? Yeah. So this still using the same, but as I said, specified products are more better than general, right? ChatGPT right now has a search feature, but that search feature is general. It's not for papers. It's a general search tool, meaning that if you're intentionally looking for papers, it would be good for you to find an AI-based paper searcher, right? Because then they have given it the right tools for that specific job, right? So Elicit, for example, is a good one for looking for papers for literature review or something like that. Now, another, okay, so just an example. Another thing, I think, so we said, okay, let me do this. Paper searching. So I will give that And surely there are definitely other platforms that you can try out, but this one so far is pretty good. So as I said, coding, I recommend Cloud. And the Cloud, there's even a model, it's called Opus. Cloud Opus 4.5. So far, pretty good model for coding, okay? Large data processing. So go for the Google Gemini models. Google Gemini models. And okay, image generation. Also, for the image generation, at this point, Google before was behind on this game, but they really caught up. So far at this point, and you should know that these people are making models every day and they're competing in the new benchmarks. For the image generation so far, the Google, I think it's Gemini, I think it's 2.5 Pro, which is in the nickname for it is called Nano Banana. It is one of the best models for making images, and surely it is really good compared to every other model that has come in the same time frame. Does that make sense? So for image generation, so far as well, they were behind, but Google's Nano Banana is really good, right? I will give you ways to access some of this writing. Writing. So this is a recommendation I give everybody because for me, every single time I'm in writing mode, this is the tool I go to, right? For writing, I know we're supposed to do real-world examples at the end here, but let's go. So for writing, for me, I recommend this one. It's called Jenny. The reason why is if you understand how these tools are made, right? I think that Jenny so far has the best implementation of how best growth is on browser. Please sign in with username and password. Really? Really? Oh, different computer. Okay. Let me see if I can remember that. Let's hope I remember this password. Come on. Valid combination. Okay, I will forget this password if I want. All right, fine. I'll deal with this later. So I'll show you Jenny, but so far, let's just go to Jenny and we see their homepage. So from me looking at all the tools that people are doing for academic writing, so far, this is the best tool for writing. When I say writing, what I mean is, let's say in most of our cases, we have large amounts of papers, right, or thesis or something like that, right? And most of the time, sometimes I would imagine that most of the cases, people take that big PDF, go to ChatGPT, like, give me a chapter, you get the point? And then you have to be doing that. And as we say, diminishing returns. The more you have more data, the more degrading results you're having. This tool, I think that is one of the best implementations for academic writing, where you actually take your thesis. It's by default expecting large context. You put your thesis in the thing, and then you can. It's not a what is it called? It's not a cheating tool. Just give you like everything you need. It's a tool where you write your thesis inside, and as you're writing, it suggests things based on what is above, but also with the references you're having. It can suggest new references, but also you can add your own previous references. So in my interpretation, trying out all the tools, I think that this is the best implementation of a good product for academic writing because, one, it is not a copy and paste product. You write your thesis inside, okay? And as you're writing, it suggests things based on what you're writing, the direction you're going for, your references. Because if you go and you're trying to do this with a general tool, the search tool we're using, or the search tool that those AI models are using for references, is a general Google type search, right? This is intentionally looking at papers, right? So the suggestions you're having are not internet articles or gotten from like a journal-based search. This is intentionally getting paper references, and as it's suggesting things, it's because they are now, like after, reinforcing with the data that they have for the papers. They say that they do a 48-hour cycle. They go get papers, like reinforce with those papers, and then it suggests things as you're writing. I think at the end I'll try to get my account fixed so that we can check this out, how it looks like. But the thing is, this is like, you put your thesis, you start writing. As you're writing it, it's not a copy and paste. But you can also have a chat on the side. If you wanted to do copy and paste, you can. But the intention of it is mostly like, it's an academic writing assistant. It is not a copy and paste thing. So now the good advantage of this is now, if you are trying to get any AI model to help you with a chapter, you might be limited to, as we said, the size of the data, but also you might not be able to grasp everything, right? But in this case, since you have a big, all your work is inside there, it means that any context that you might have from that AI model, and these guys do use ChatGPT at the base, is now having all of that data as context, right? Or specific chunks done methodically with them knowing that you're writing a thesis. Does it make sense? So for academic writing, I would recommend this one because then it means you can be writing, it knows what references are. When you're done with your references, you can even export them in different types based on whatever you need at the end of the day. So this is a much better approach for handling academic writing, because now we're dealing with those things. They're handling how to handle context, right? They're handling all the references, right? They're giving you suggestions in a good way that is not too like copy and paste, right? It's based on, if you're writing something, it goes like, okay, so are you going this way or are you going that way? And in what you're reading, if you're writing, what you're writing here, these are some articles from your own references or from new references that might corroborate this. You get the point? So this is a tool that I recommend. And anytime I'm in writing mode, I go and pay for this, okay? So I think that this is the best implementation. And the way they do it, it's so good. I won't mind, but not yet. So yeah, so these are the tools that I'm recommending. As I said, don't conform yourself to one tool, right? Use the best tool for it's to our advantage. Most of these tools will have like free tiers, right? Take that to your advantage, right? Use that to get your work done. So this is some of the recommendations that I'm recommending for you for the selections of specific jobs that you're having, right? Now we come to this data analysis workflow that I'm giving you here. So in general sense, if you're doing data analysis the traditional way, right, it means you need to get your data and you need to learn at least some Python basics or some Python data analysis to be able to analyze your data. And you need to understand your data and then learn how, this is the traditional sense before we had ChatGPT and all these models, right? Or you go find some GitHub script that is close to what you're looking for. That would be the traditional sense before we had AI. Python is one of the most recommended tools or popular tools for doing data analysis, but we have many options. We have R, we can use practically any language if you're conversant with it to do specific things, right? For me, I'm mostly in the web, so you can even do analysis with Node.js, because actually JSON comes from JavaScript. So JavaScript actually handles JSON data more better than other languages because it's coming from there. So the tool that you use for analysis is really up to you. But the most popular and the most large ecosystem of like tools, guides, libraries is in Python, because in most cases the bar of entry is very low. You don't have to really suffer so much to know the language of programming before you can do data analysis, right? So in traditional sense, you get your data and you learn Python and then you write your own data processing scripts. That was the normal way, right? The other approach that people are doing these days is they feed an Excel sheet to ChatGPT and then tell it to write a Python script. Or they might just say, write me a data analysis script, and then they put it on the computer to run, right? And as you said, right, questions, the way you ask might be more effective. So if you say Python script, you can get a Python script, or you can get whatever direction you need for that data analysis. And I believe ChatGPT also has an ability to do data analysis on the platform. They write the code and then run it for you. I think that's an ability that might be available for the pro members. I believe so. So this is the most common direction that people are doing these days. And some people can use any model for doing data analysis code. Now, the approach that I am recommending you today is taking advantage of everything we've talked about, okay? So my recommendation for you is using a code editor. So in most senses, right, most of us will probably never use a code editor, those who are doing general academia. Okay, somebody's asking about having a problem to access Claude. So in this next workflow, I'm going to show you how to access Claude without actually using the main Claude product, okay? Because also Claude is very good. It's too expensive. I also cannot access it from here because of their US only, I think, phone numbers or something like that. So the workflow I'm going to show you here will allow you to get Claude in a very affordable way, okay? Actually, free. So I would be recommending you to use VS Code, the software that I told you to download before, and something called GitHub Education. So GitHub Education is a program that is made by the company GitHub to allow students to get resources for free while they're studying. So you get a two-year benefits, okay? 2-year benefits, and some of those benefits are AI modules in the VS Code editor, which include Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini. You can have all of that for coding, okay? Does that make sense? So if you got that VS Code that I told you about, this is how it looks like. And this is really, it's made for coders, so you don't really have to be intimidated by how everything looks here. It doesn't really matter. The thing that we're here for is this one. They have a coding assistant here on the side. And the advantages, if you log in here with GitHub, when you come here, look at that. We have Claude. The model that I was talking about, there's even a new one, 4.6. That would be exciting. So this one, 4, is the one that I was recommending you guys to use, right? And you can see, you see this 0x, they're telling you the amount of charge they give you per running. So let's say they usually give you credits like in Microsoft, in GitHub, right, for the AI models. So they're telling you that if you use the ChatGPT models, they're going to charge you nothing, 0x of your balance. If you use this Haiku, they will charge you 0.3 of your usage, right? Some of these are 1. Do you see this? This model costs you 3 times your normal allocation. And it is not for no reason. It is because this model is actually very good and it actually costs a lot of money. And surely this number is not just there because of nothing. It's actually in comparison. If you were to give it same data, same amount of, let's say, task, in one go, the result that you get from this Opus 4.5 is much better than you get from anything. Okay? So that's why I'm recommending it to you. Now, when you register for GitHub Education, you're going to get a very generous amount of usage for this for free. If you don't, you can still use it, but you get this, I think this Haiku, and then you get some ChatGPT models, of which, by default, with this workflow that I'm showing you here, you will get much better result than doing the telephone. You go to ChatGPT, hey, this is what happened, then you come and run it on your computer. You're losing context, but also you're adding in human bias and error, right? So you doing your data processing in a code editor like this is much more efficient because, one, when you're running this, you make a folder, you put all your data. The AI has all of that in context, right? It knows everything that is existing. 2, if you run that code, it can see what happened, meaning that you will not lose what is happening you will not lose the actual facts of what is happening with your problems if you try to carry whatever is happening and try to explain it to ChatGPT. Does it make sense? It can just see it on its own, right? It can see the data, it can see the code, it can see the error, meaning that, as we said, right, context, the thing that is actually happening is more important for you to get the best result. You're actually having a much better output for your data analysis than you doing telephone with ChatGPT going. You can find ChatGPT in here, so you can just do with ChatGPT in here too. Either way, you have a better result than you would doing telephone. Does that make sense? Yeah. So in this case, if you have this, normally you can log in here. If you press login, it will send you to GitHub. GitHub, in general, if you don't do computer science, you might not necessarily need to know a lot about it, but practically it's a place to store your code. But it's a big company, so they do so many other things, right? But what we're looking for here is their education program, okay? So their education program, when you log in, it's found, actually, we can just search GitHub Education Program. That would be better. If you search GitHub Education Program, they have a program that is partnering with all the schools, including our school. Our school is also partner in so many universities. So all you have to do is actually just register and you get, because there are so many good benefits, including tutorials, some cloud resources, right, that you can get. And it's actually a waste not to use this opportunity, because they are actually doing this for everybody, right, and for us, and it's really a good thing to be able to utilize. So GitHub Education, I will put this here, paste text, okay? So in your free time, make an account for GitHub and just follow these guides. Most of these, when you click here, they'll tell you start the application. When you start this application here, the tips that I'll give you that are most important. You need to first do it in the school Wi-Fi, okay? Do it in the school Wi-Fi and be in the school location, because they check whether you're in the school location. 3, you need a school email. So you can't just use this with like a normal email. So, school location and school email, and have a document that has like proof of study. You will need a proof of study document, and most of that needs to be a document that has like the school logo and your name and your study period. And the best documents for that, I find, is admission, because sometimes you apply for this and then they'll reject you. They'll tell you, we don't see the school logo, right, or something like that. So the best one is admission or pre-graduation certificate, of which you can get this anytime at the school office. Those ones are the best documents that I found for this process, because they show the school header, they show when you're studying, they show your full name, and also how long you're studying for. These are the best that I've had helping other people get this, including myself. I used one of these, and you can easily get that with this. So yeah, and use school Wi-Fi. So these are reasons that you might get rejected for, okay? So make sure you're in the school, using school Wi-Fi, and no VPN. Make sure you're not using a VPN as well, all right? So if you have all of these, then most of the things that will happen, it will just be like, do this, upload this, upload this. And also one thing that I had forgotten here, experienced it recently, is the document itself, they might want you to not upload it, but they might want you to show on the camera. I think I remembered how I did it. I used the phone. Yes. Yeah, okay. So when you're uploading, because if you have an admission document, it's really hard from the laptop, right? So try to do it on the phone, because you can do back camera, you can do front camera. It's much better to see your document. They will not allow you to upload. They want you to see you, like, holding it for proof of identity, okay? So if you can do this, you can get these benefits. And we can look at the benefits. The benefits are plenty. You get, some cloud resources and the AI models. They have their AI code. The AI in the VS Code is called Copilot, right? But Copilot isn't specifically a model. They allow you to use any of the models that exist for your coding work, of which in this case we wanted for data analysis, okay? So, yeah. You come to this and you just follow the procedure, and those are the tips, right? Be in the school, no VPN, use school Wi-Fi, have your document ready, your admission or pre-graduation certificate, and then that's it. And your school email. So for Ligong, I'll share, I think, a link for the guide for the school email, but I think for every other school, you might have your own ways of accessing your school email, but at the end of the day, you need your school email to be able to proceed with this, okay? Now that you have all of that, and you have your VS Code installed, and you have Python installed, of which I've given you Anaconda to download. You can get normal Python, but I prefer Anaconda because it's much better at making like environments for your work. So you can have different packages for different projects. I find the switching much more easier, but if you have Python, that's good enough. So you have your VS Code like this, and you have your modules like this. When you're using VS Code, the best scenario that I recommend you to do is you make a folder with nothing but only the content of your research. So let's say you have some, don't put too big PDFs because you're going to finish your context space, but let's say you have your files, like your Excel files or your CSV files for your data analysis, right? You have any other smaller, or it can be big, no problem. This guy is summarizing. They'll tell you when they're summarizing. You can have anything that is important to what you're trying to do, right? You put it in one folder, and in here you open the folder. So don't use this to open a single file. If you're doing this, open the whole folder. We want the whole folder with everything that is important to us in that folder, okay? Because the moment you open the folder, the AI has access to everything. It can read the things, but also it can like process them so that they're in context when you're talking to it, okay? Which, as we said, is very important. So here we're maximizing on that resource. So let's see, GitHub. Okay, there's AI class. Dataset. Okay, let's do that. So I will share this sample data set. You might have your own data sets. That's fine. If you want to try with this, I just got this right now before this class. But you can try with anything that you have. So like that. Okay. So when you're opening the folder, now let's talk about the user interface of VS Code for those who have not used it before. On the first part here is your files. So since you've opened the folder, you can see all the files you have here. All right. And then here you can search, because in your work you might have 5 or 6 different files. This is to search all the files. Okay. This one is Git. I don't know if you guys have used that before, but mostly programmers use this to save work. It's for version control. You can save your current work. Let's say we have good code today, and tomorrow your professor says, can you try this direction? You can branch to try that direction, and then if things go south, you can go back. That's the job of this thing. Or if you're working on something, and then you want to be like, I want to save this for now, and then I want to go back to that model to try another approach, you can do that. This is like version control. For those who want to go and dip into it, we can talk about it. But I told you guys to download something called Git. If you install that, this will just work like this. If you do that, it will do all the process of setting up. And then from this, you can be able to save the versions that you have. So I just say maybe version 1. I can save this and then continue. And then every time I want to make a new branch, I can make a new branch. And then I will be trying something new from my original direction and then change any time. But I don't want to go into this too much because it might confuse some people. So I will stop here for this part. But just know that this is for saving your work in a more comprehensive way. Okay, so this is Git. And this is extensions. There are some things that are made by people online that can help you enhance the use of the editor. So you can search for them, any that you want, either by recommendation or if you just think about something like, it would be nice if this thing can help you to do this. If you search here, you might find it, okay? But what's most important for us is just maybe this file and the searching and the chat here on the side, okay? Now, here, as I said, we have so many models, and if you're coding and if your balance allows it, I would recommend you to use this cloud thing. So as I said before, right? Ooh, CSV is a lot of data. So as I said before, all of these AI models can be used for anything, right? So think about them like you can redrive them for anything. So in this case, we have 3 modes for this thing. There is agent mode. Agent mode means when you tell it, it just starts doing the thing. And if you remember what I said before, all the AI models are autocomplete models. They don't know what they're going to say in the future. That's why some people, you see memes, right, saying like, oh, ChatGPT can't find how many R's are in strawberry. If you've ever seen that, right? Because the generative models are only autocompleting what is there before. Therefore, they might not know what they will write in front. So sometimes if you ask them like, how many things are in this thing that you're making for me now, you end up having errors. And if you understand the fundamentals behind, it's because when they are working, they don't know what they're going to say in future, right? So if you can have the chatbot discuss your thing before answering you, you get a better result. That's where we saw these things called thinking. If you've ever seen like ChatGPT or any AI model saying thinking, this was an innovation to solve this problem of like having it guessing what will happen in the future. Because if you can allow the model just to talk on its own, like I am going to do this, and then answer the question, it means that now it has this data to be able to give you a result of what it is planning to do. Does that make sense? And you, by default, on an average basis, you always have better answers if you had the chatbot discuss what it's going to do before it does it, right? But we still have the option to just do it. So in this case, the agent mode is just do it. right? It can just, in most cases, it might work. But in other cases, I would recommend you to do the planning first. Because what the planning will do is, it will look at everything, discuss what it's going to do, meaning that after that, if it's implementing, it now has a good pre-understanding of what it's going to do after. As we said, that is a benefit for any AI chatbot, to discuss what it's going to do before it does it, because it never knows what it's going to do in front. Does that make sense? Yeah, and then there's this ask. So ask is just general. You can just talk to it, right? So in this case, we say we have, and in this editor, right? You see they say add context. You can be able to do this. If you have multiple files, you can drag and say I have a question for this, or I want you to do this with this file, right? Because as we said, input is very important, right? So sometimes you can be able to, specifically what you want, right? You have 7 files, but you know that what I want to do right now, I want that file are the most important. So you can drag them. Be like, this file has this file has that. I want you to do this in this file. So you can just drag everything you need here. So in this case, let's just have, this is a general university student data set. So we can ask it what kind of basic data analysis can we do on this data? Like that. So here, ask is general. So any of these models, this would be the same as you asking ChatGPT for something. You get, literally, you can now choose any model and have any conversation with it. Even if you're not using AI, since you have your GitHub tokens, right, you can come here and talk to Claude just from the asking part. You get the point? So you can access any of these models, and the asking will just be conversation, right? So any general conversation you want to have, you can be able to have this. This is that ask mode. So yeah. So there we go. Now, let's say, let's see. What do you want to do here? Descriptive, questions. Let's choose one that will allow it to do. I want to see if these are correct. Training hours, living hours, time job. Okay, that's some good stuff. Let's see. Which one do you guys want to do? 1 to 6. Sample. Just show you the workflow. Any choice? Yeah. Okay. All right. So now we have a data set and we have an objective for data analysis, right? So we can tell it. Now we'll go in planning mode first. Okay. So we can tell it to do question 3. Welcome. And the visualizations, I think we can choose all. We can choose these 3. In most cases, for our academic work, right? If you have data analysis, at the end of the day, the objective you're looking for is maybe diagrams, tables, right? So if you are trying to do analysis, and you have specific, let's say, you should have specific intentions of what you want from that data to use for your work. Does that make sense? So if you know those in advance, or you have a paper that you're referencing, maybe that you're framing most of your work on. It's like, oh, I want this diagram and that diagram. In here, you can also paste images. So you can even go in a reference paper that you have to be like, I want a diagram like this one. I want a diagram like, and you can paste. In here, you can literally paste images as well, and that will be used as context. Does that make sense? Yeah, so here, it has already given us some basic diagrams that we can get, some visualizations that we might be looking for, let's say, to use for an article on this, right? So we can tell it for the visual ideas, maybe use this. And in most practical cases, you will have specific visualizations that you're looking for your work, right? So this is just an example, so like that. And we have our data here, to question 3, and then we can say, like, write me up. If you leave it open-ended, it will choose for you. But in this case, we wanted to use Python, so you can specify. Okay. So write a Python script. Write a Python script to do that, to do the data analysis. And in most practical cases, you will have your own objectives of what you're looking for. Okay. Analysis. What am I saying? Like this? It will autocomplete, no problem.
Oh, it does that.
Okay. All right. So this is the best case we want. Take a folder, put your data in it, right? Do a plan. Let it plan. Let it talk about it. Get all your objectives, the diagrams you want, everything you want, and then allow it to plan, right? So it'll do a plan like that, and since this is a code editor, right? It can write code but also run it. As we said, that feedback, the context of what is happening is very, very important. Meaning that if, let's say, you are having to go ChatGPT, write some code for you, and then you go, come back, that feedback might not be good enough than you having it to run, see what is happening, iterate, revise. You end up having a much, much better quality because you're giving it the ability to revise, see what is happening, and you're removing all human error in your communication, right? It's able to see what is happening, see the code, see the data, right? See the errors, and then revise on that, all right? So when you do the plan, then you can tell it, start implementing, okay? So also, you go start implementing, and you can see it work. And if you try this, you will see that, especially for this kind of work, if you use ChatGPT usually have many questions in comparison to Opus. Opus, on a go, at the first start, in comparison to the number of trials, you usually get a very good result out of the box than the other modules, in my experience using these tools. So here we have Claude now doing that work. And yeah, here, he's writing our script, and it is almost done. So sometimes it will ask you these things, right? It will tell you to run. In this case, we are assuming that all of us are not programmers, right? So it's telling you that I want to run this, and it will be in your benefit for it to run it so that it can see if anything is wrong, okay? So this allow comes here. This might happen many times, but in our case, we can say auto-approve because you want it to revise multiple times until it's okay. We don't want it to stop until it's okay, right? So you can say allow auto-approval and then say allow in this session. So it will run it, it will fail, it has failed. It's finding what the problem is, it's revising. Definitely for somebody who wasn't programming, whatever happened here, they might have the same issue, right? So you go back to ChatGPT, I think something is wrong, I get the point, and then you go back and forth. I might make my own decisions for this, and in fact, if you are well informed, you can make some of the decisions of what is happening, if you know what is happening. But if you don't have that enough knowledge to do that, it's okay to allow it to work on it until it is done. So allow for this session and allow it to work. So in here, it has faced the problem, the feedback, it has seen what happened, meaning that the next decisions that it's going to make actually going to be more factual and also much more helpful than it would you trying to explain what is happening in ChatGPT in the browser that doesn't know what is happening with your data, your code, or your errors. Does that make sense? So you can allow this to... Yes.
Yeah, but what you do that AI meetings,
Oh,
might be
the machine might be too small.
run on local machine, no?
Yeah.
Especially related to the data analysis. So
Yeah.
it's possible. It's better to
Link it to
especially for those
Google Colab.
specific coders.
Yeah, I understand that.
Because they don't need to install any package.
Yeah.
You know that.
With Google Colab.
Local machine requires a lot of packages.
Yeah. All right.
To
So,
make them simple,
mhm.
and then computer science students,
Yeah.
better to show them on our website. Of course, for
All right.
us it's good.
Yeah, but I understand that. So for what he's talking about is in some cases, right? I think for most non-computer science majors, your data sets are probably much smaller than the things that we get. For us, if we're doing like any Python work, the data sets are huge, and our computers might not be able to manage that. But from some of the majors that we have here, our data sets are much smaller than this. Your computer might be able to handle this. In the scenario that he's mentioning where you have such large files, there are platforms like Google Colab that have compute available for you to use. And in this case, let's say you just want to have your script working out of the box. I have seen ways of adding Colab in the VS Code, but I have not used that yet. I think I can refine that and be able to give you guys a workflow later. But in this case, let's say you're planning to do some work. You have a sample of data, but the data is too much for you to run on your local computer. You can tell it to be like, can you write me this script? I'm going to eventually run it on Go Colab. Just run small iterations so that I can be able to see if it's working, and then I can carry my code to Go Colab. So to factor in that conversation, I think we can do that for now in this setup.
I understand, not only in terms of size.
Yes, compute.
Database size. What I'm saying, not even compute.
Or there is the
Sometimes
environment.
Local machine, for example, when I'm trying to use even my school server,
Yeah,
the GPU server,
yeah, the
one
packages.
challenge is you create your own environment.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, again, installing a lot of packages.
Yeah,
It makes it a bit complicated, you know.
yeah.
So the Colab makes easy all these things.
Yeah. All right. So for us, the reason why we're here is, as we're saying, we're trying to get the advantage of like you having the context and the AI in this setup, right? So if you're to try to balance that, I think the factors of like trying to balance the compute and the resources, that would be maybe a whole different focus, right? But in this case, if we're trying to get at least the code right, with this setup, this is how we do, right? And if you do want to go to Go Colab, you can be able to tell it to say like, let's say this is some of the data, help me write the script, run it on a small number of iterations until it's okay, then I'll carry that. If you can give it that context that you are carrying this code elsewhere, I think that you can be able to bridge this gap. But then I have seen also the, I think, plugins for Go Colab. So I will look into that and see how we can also bridge this to directly take you to run the code on Go Colab with a setup. Yeah. Okay, so for the package management for Python, as you were saying, indeed you do have a lot of headaches managing environments in Python. That's why for me I was recommending Anaconda, because in my experience too, I have had so many headaches with the normal Python than having an environment manager like Conda. I have a better experience with Conda because you can be able to make very isolated environments to run all your code. And in this case, because of course we are having the AI run the code, we don't have to really worry about handling all of that, okay? But it can do all of that for us with this scenario. So we can let this operate, and here it is actually doing that task of like installing the packages, and that's probably going to take a bit of a while. While we're waiting for this to process, we can talk about the next thing on the agenda. Hello, how are you? Okay, so there are some, the recording is, I mean the stream is recorded, so you can be able to follow up later, but for the materials, if you're in, are you in the group? Yeah. You're in the group already, right? All right, so you can be able to get all the links and then follow up in any parts with reference to the video later, okay? All right. Okay, so proofing, paraphrasing, humanizing, exam preparation. Okay, so for here, academic writing, pre-research, as we said, you for most tools, you have something called an equivalent called deep research, right? So if you're having a question, let's say, on ChatGPT and you want it to help you like do some searches, there's always an equivalent to this. It's called deep research. So for ChatGPT, I think it's called deep research, and for other places, you have it. You have different names for it. But the idea is, beside the knowledge of a chat model, you want it to be able to go online and get some things with references, right? So in ChatGPT, you can use deep reference. So the idea is, if you are doing some kind of pre-research analysis, it is always good for you to intentionally do that than just ask the question, okay? Because then you're telling it intentionally that go and get me some, go and look out for references and then answer me based on those references, okay? But the tool that I recommended for pre-analysis that is pretty good intentionally for academia is Elicit, as I had mentioned. But anytime you're doing pre-analysis, make sure that for whatever tool you're using, you are using a deep research or like equivalent to whatever tool you're using. That goes online, gets some results, and then gets you some pre-analysis of what you're about to be writing about, okay? And Yeah, for writing, I think I've already spoken about this, and I've also spoken about Jenny. Okay, there we go. So our AI model is done processing, and as we said, see, this is one go, right? I didn't tell it many things. This was one-time trial. So if you compare like ChatGPT and other models to get you results, Cloud Opus on one go will get you the very closest to the result you're looking for than multiple things. You see here, we already have a result. We didn't go back and forth. We didn't ask it many things, but on the go, the objective we had for that, processing that data, right? And giving us the visualizations that we need for our thesis, right? For our work. It was already done. This is less than 10 minutes, right? So it means that for whatever work you're having, right? And at the end of the day, the data analysis will be based on the quality of the code, beside the compute, beside the data size, right? So for us to get that quality code, it would be good for you to put a folder, get your data inside, get anything else that is relevant, right? Have Claude pre-plan the analysis, discuss with it, and then allow it to implement the code. Whether you run it elsewhere or not, this is the recommended setup that I would advise you to have, because now it means like this. If you have data, right? If you are writing a thesis, you need 7 diagrams. It will just be dishing diagrams, like whatever you need. You can even screenshot. I want this kind of diagram for my thesis. I want it. It will do it for you. Does that make sense? And now, this conversation as well, after it does this, after it does this analysis, right? It has so much context of this data. You can even ask it to write you like sections just for your thesis. You might want to discuss the data, right? How was it cleaned? How was it done? And all of that, right? You can be able to have this even discuss your data, because this thing can be able to write files. Okay, so you can tell, can you write me some data that I want? Can you write me some articles, right? Some articles that I'm going to plug in or contribute into my work to discuss about this data that we've done the analysis about. Because by it writing this code, it has have a very general and deep understanding of what the data really is. You get the point? So after this is great, right? This is great. We already had our one shot, and we have our result. Yeah, we have our result already. Here it is. And then you can even tell it to say like, okay, write me an article, write me a section for my paper about this data and its trends and also the processing. Okay? And tip now, for AI, right? Most cases, Word document is made by Microsoft, so that is like, if you have Excel, Word document, and all these things, they are made by Microsoft. Means that it's their intellectual property. So not everything can produce you Word documents in the best way, right? The best form, if you want to write articles, the best thing that I recommend for you is to tell it to write it in Markdown. Markdown, because this is it is a free and openly available format that you can write that supports like headers, diagrams, and all of that. Okay? So here we can tell it like, write me a section of my paper about this data, its trends, and also the processing in Markdown. Okay? Because now this text, you can be able to paste it. It can be good formatted, like everything, like headers, diagrams, and everything like that. And then now it means for the data processing part of your work, you've done a good chunk, right? Took us 10 minutes to do this, right? So the quality of your code, as we said, with Cloud Opus 4 will be very, very good. And in one go, by the number of iterations, you have a much closer objective achieved with less few back and forth with Cloud than you might have other modules. That's why I recommend it. And if you can have all of the data inside and it's able to see it, it's able to run it, you have a very, very good quality of result. And then this is what I'm recommending to you. Okay? Do you have any questions on this workflow? Well,
for my analysis, I use. Can I tell it to say, okay, generate the results in a format like that of SPSS and whatever, and then you model how it moves?
well, yeah. Yeah, so I believe that for for most of the output that you require on your thesis, right, they definitely have technical words on what those diagrams are, right? So even if you don't know them, it's okay to sample, to give it a photo and tell it, like, at the end of the day, I want this. And definitely, if it can understand what the technical final representation of that data visualization is, it can do it for you. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah, those old guys, you mention AI on anything
Mm.
to do your work.
Yeah.
You have cheated.
Yeah, but the intention of the data analysis, right?
Like that.
I understand that. I think the fundamentals of, I feel like we should first understand why we're doing the work, right? So in this case, if you're discussing some data in your paper, not everybody has the time to go and scroll, right? So I'd imagine that the initial reasoning why we have visualizations in the first place is for somebody to be able to grasp what is happening with the data very fast without having to sieve through 5,000 lines of right? So if this serves the purpose that you're looking for your writing work, then I believe the goal is, the result is actually okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any other questions? I hope you guys are seeing how you might this might be useful in your existing workflows. If you have any questions. Huh? Can I link with the collab? I know there's an extension, but I have not explored that. So I will do that this week, and then I will tell you. I'll give you a guide. Okay, all right. Yeah. So for the running, some definitely might want to run with collab, so I will research on that and have that. I think that is actually very, very, now that will be more powerful, because then if we can have this running in collab, even perfect, right? Yeah, so I will research that. Okay, any other questions? We're good? Can move on? Yeah, so for this, I would love all of you, I gave you a data set, I would love you to do this on your own. If you have any questions, you can message me about any of it, including the installation of the softwares. I would love you to do the installations though today before you go, so that if there's any problem, we can deal with it before you go. Because if you have all of them like this, then you can proceed, right? Yeah. So this is the recommended data analysis flow I have for you guys. Jenny. All right, so I need to find somewhere to log into this, because then it won't allow me to show you guys without logging in. Forgot password.
So what you were saying about James, even if you were writing somewhere, you can keep that word.
Yeah, Jenny has forms of, yes. That is in Jenny, that's the best way to use it. Have your whole work inside, because we want all of that data, because now it affects your result, right? So you have multiple ways of importing. You can also import your references from Zotero and all of these platforms. So yeah, give it the most of your work so that it can give you better results. Okay. Does your Jenny have so much stuff? Can we use an example?
It expired.
It expired?
Yesterday, I have to, because I tried to log in today.
Ah, okay. All right. All right. Let me do forget password for my old account, if I even have one.
Did you check the quality of reference?
For Jenny?
Yeah.
I did. For every single.
Standard reference.
Yeah. Every time I'm in writing mode, I am coming to pay for this, because even though I might be getting, let's say, heavier quality content elsewhere, but I make this my central place of writing, because the way it is made, I think that is the best implementation of an academic writing assistant, not a copy and paste assistant, but an academic writing assistant. You get the point? So like if I'm writing, there might be new references that I've not seen. It will suggest those for me. If I needed to maybe continue the path that I'm writing based on the direction I'm writing, it also does a very good job. But also if I need a huge chunk of text from outside, that's still fine, because as we said, right, there are different models that are very strong for specific things. So I still take that and then still come here as my central point. Does that make sense?
About the education issues that
That one is a special area for discussion on this. I will talk about that, okay? All right, so yeah, we'll talk about that. All right, I got a link here. Hi. How are you doing? Welcome, welcome. If there's anything, we have a recording. If you need anything from before, is that okay? All right. All right. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm trying to get a Gmail link here to allow me to log in and to show you guys. Oh wow. In the meantime, if you have any questions or issues, let me know while I'm trying to get this logged in. Copy the link. Now, limitations to Jenny. As we said, right, this is a large context-based application. Therefore, the models they choose, this is my analysis from them, before they used to even write these models, they always use like an older model than the current one. This is probably for cost-saving purposes, right? So if you do sometimes still need like heavier good content that somewhere else, it's really fine to complement the complement the writing. If you need to get maybe big chunks of text that is like really, really heavier on a heavier model, you can still come in here and use this as your central point of writing, okay? But as I said, this is more of like it's a place for you to be writing, not copy and pasting, right? So if your intention is like, I have something to say and I have something to write, this is the best place to do that, okay? So let's make a password. Really? Okay. Oh, okay. By the way, okay. So this, as we said, if you wanted, oh, sorry, if you want this to do any like writing for you, like let's say a section of your work for the data analysis, right? After you have it process the data, if you tell it to write in MD, this is how MD looks like. You can do this preview. It looks like this. So this is a good way. Actually, in fact, all AI models by default, their answers are in MD already. Because MD, you can do like titles and headers. So by default, all AI models, all AI chat applications answer in Markdown, okay? So, because it allows you to do this table, AI is very good at writing a Markdown to give you like tables, headers, and everything like that. So if you let's say you've done your analysis, it's great. The images, the diagrams, the evaluations are great. You want it to write a section for your work, tell it to write the MD, it will be very good. You can have something like this, right? So you can copy from this and go somewhere else. And you can also see one thing though. This is Claude, right? It's good at code, but it's very lazy. The text is very small. You get the point? So even if, let's say, we were wanting to expand on this, you can now go to a heavier model that talks a lot. Models that talk a lot, an example I'll give is DeepSeek. DeepSeek talks too much. So if you're looking to feed your thesis, right, go to DeepSeek. Because that one it's very good at like just talking and talking and talking. So in this case too, remember.
So which means when now Claude has given you the business, now you take that DeepSeek.
Yeah, you can now expand on it if you would like to. Or we have other models here. We said Claude is good at code, right? So it means from here we can just switch models and then get somebody who talks a lot to talk a lot about the data. Is that okay?
Yeah, because you were, sort of teaching students that be careful one thing.
Yeah.
It generates everything. But you are taking, especially if you are going to make some kind of application or just writing, you can be careful of the
Read the content. That's a good tip.
One thing they are generated automatically to be disqualified.
You should read.
So we need to be conscious of that.
Yeah.
It helps us, but after taking that, read fine paper, that
To reference.
that idea.
Yeah.
And after getting that idea,
Mm-hmm.
and you have something which is generated from AI.
Yeah.
And then after finding related concepts that complete that area from other journals,
Mm.
repeated journals, not
Yeah.
any journal.
Yeah.
You know, the one University of Technology, they have their own standard,
Yeah.
especially on thesis writing.
Yeah.
If they didn't see too much of CCI journals,
Mm.
you know,
They'll
it's
value your
standard,
quality as well.
journals,
Yeah.
it has its own impact of passive reply, you know.
Yeah.
So as much as possible, we need to interrelate
Our
things
work.
with university standards
Yeah.
to make it more, you know, not to
Good quality.
misunderstand you.
Yeah.
You know, that guy has said, and when they incorporate,
Mm-hmm.
then when the professor says these whole things,
It's not.
this is junk, you know.
Yeah.
So we need to be conscious on such kind of things. I know,
That is
when
true.
we are teaching students, we know these whole things,
Yeah.
you know, related to this education issues.
Yeah.
So we need to be conscious on such kind of things also.
Yeah. Right. That
Add some points, you know.
that is very true, right? These tools are more to accelerate your work. It's not to replace you, right? If you are here doing a PhD in your thesis, right, that is the work to be done, right? So even if you get any of these data, there's still work for you to do to be able to write. And that's why I say, like, for example, Jenny, I find that Jenny is a really good place to do assisted writing, because then it's not by design, that place is not meant for copy and paste. It's meant for writing, okay? So let's say I've been here for a long time. So let's say like this. So this is the way Jenny looks like. Okay, you have documents, and then you have like a library, and then you have general AI chat. Okay, so if you just want to talk to like PDF, I've seen other platforms that are just like talking to a PDF, right? You can. Okay. You can do that here. If you're collecting, let's say, some papers, right? You're collecting some papers for some works, you can make these things called collections. So you can get all the, and as I said, this by default, this place is ready for heavy context, right? So you can get those 1,000-page PDFs, right? You can get all of the good PDFs that you're looking for and make a collection like this, okay? And then you can make documents with this. So the idea here is, if you are starting a new document like this, what are you writing, right? We need to know what you're writing. You need to tell the AI what the best objective of your work is, right? So you can write an idea here, an abstract, or anything like that to give it context of what you're writing, okay? So then after that, it generates maybe some outline, but most of that outline maybe might not be so good enough. But what we want here is we want to be able to import some work, okay? So you can import, as we said here, one, PDFs from your current work, or references from Zotero and Mendeley. And actually, I haven't been here for a while, but before there wasn't even support for Mendeley, and now they do, okay? If you're writing, let's say, where's my VS Code? Okay. All right. Okay, import from Word. Okay, so you can be able to import a Word document here, and then you can start from there. But the idea here is, let me see. The idea here is, right? If you have a section, let's just do like this section. This is meant for you to be a replacement of like a word editor. If you have words above and you have some references, right? And it has an understanding of what you're writing about. Let's say if it's a short paper, this is just an example, right? I like to use this example. If you start writing like this, you see this, what it does? It suggests you based on what you're writing. And also, you can see that in this suggestion, I removed the suggestion. There are references to papers. You see this? You get the point? So it's like you can be writing, and as you're writing, you can accept. So it's referencing. You see this is another paper. And you can be able to see the references and also go view the papers. So the job of this thing isn't It's not a copy and paste. It's an assisted writing. You are here to write, and as you're writing, it will be suggesting you things based on your direction of where you're going, but also with relevant papers, either in general, but also from your library. Does it make sense? And I find that when I compare, yes?
Sorry, I mean, it's copy-paste only. You have to rewrite, yeah?
Come again?
It's just
No. You do this. Like if you're right, you can write on your own, but if it's suggesting, you can accept.
But this one is paste, copy-paste, right?
What do you mean by
It's like
copying?
rewriting.
No, you write this. This is like if you come here, a new document, right? You import your existing Word document. So this is your thesis already writing. So as you're writing your own work, it can suggest things if you want to accept the suggestion. Does it make sense? Yeah. So this is not meant to like you come here, it just dumps like a whole chapter or like your whole thesis. No, it's like you're already writing your thesis. You already have some references, and you're continuing your writing in here. So it's assisted writing. It's not AI writing for you the thesis. It's you writing your thesis with AI help. Does it make sense?
Very helpful, but
Yeah.
we need to fix the issue. If you have some tools that can overpass the AI detection issues.
Yes, still
These
talking
ideas.
about AI.
It's gonna be
I,
ideas.
AI detection. I will talk about this.
Yeah, yeah.
I will talk about this at the end. Okay. Literally, I have a whole section for this. Okay. All right. So this is my recommended tool for AI for academic assisted writing. You get the usage and how it works. Any questions? And in fact, if you're doing no, I would say that for me, when I deal with a lot of these AI products, I would say that this is the best implementation of a good balance of somebody who's coming to write and they need like assisted writing than just you copy and pasting. If you can copy and paste, you can do copy and paste. But if you're writing your work, every time, personally for me, every time I'm writing, I pay for this and I use it because I think that the balance of like understanding context, getting relevant references, and also managing all of that data to be relevant, and also allowing you to work and not just copy and paste is a very good balance compared to everything that I've seen out there. Is that okay? And you can do anything here. You can get data from outside, you can get whatever you want, and then at the end of the day, you can export. And in your exporting, you can export in LaTeX, right? For some articles, people want, the requirement might be that the work needs to be written in LaTeX. You can export that, you can export in a Word document, and then you can get your references in different formats that are needed by your journal, right? You can do different like styles of your citations, and all of the references that you have in here can be changed based on whatever format that is required of you, right? So that's why I find that, as I was mentioning before, right, specified tools are much better than general tools. So in this case, this tool is using ChatGPT, but it is built with the intention of somebody who is writing. Does it make sense? Right? So I've given you something for general writing, I've given you something for data analysis, and then I think we can move on. Are we okay? Any questions for this? By the way, if you cannot get this, like for some people here in China, if you're looking for Jenny, you might not be able to pay because you don't have like a Visa card, right? You can go online on Taobao and get, like, they can allow you to help you pay with US dollar. So the equivalent for this, I think, is like about 180 or 160. And for me, I pay for it because I think that this is actually a more useful tool than general things. So whenever I'm in the writing mode, I get an account for this because I have my own things to write, but I know that this is the best implementation of an AI-assisted writer. Do you get the point? Yeah. So you can get this on Taobao. You can get people to pay for you for this if your union card doesn't work. You just search on Taobao. You can just search Jenny. Yeah, so now those accounts on Jenny, the ones that are sold as Jenny, there are two things. They're shared accounts, and then they're personal accounts. Shared accounts means they pay for one person, and then they give 4 people, which is a bit chaotic because somebody could be editing your thesis, right? So you have all those options. If you just want to try it out, you can try the shared ones, but then tomorrow you can find your documents are gone, or your thesis has changed title, so that's up to you. And then if you go above, there's a mode for exclusive. So exclusive, it means they will pay for you, and then it's just you, which I think is recommended if thesis is serious, right? You don't want somebody touching your work, right? Yeah, so you can get Jenny there too. I think now in the mode of examples, Nano Banana doesn't work here for AI, doesn't work here because of like VPN, right? This is a link for accessing Nano Banana also using Taobao. You get credits and then you can access Nano Banana here. I still recommend, this is a really good model for images. So if you need anything that requires images, you can use this. If you can access the Google Nano Banana itself, that's good on Google itself. But if you can't, this is a Chinese site that does like a proxy of that, and it does pretty good. If you want to manipulate some images for any work, you can use this as a really good tool. I will put this also in the information. You can buy credits here from Taobao as well. You can get like, I think like 1 yuan for like 6 or 4 images, and 18 for like 200 images, right? So let me have that for you. Where are my notes? All right, my notes are here. All right, so Nano Banana, Google. Okay, there we go. Like that. Now, okay, before we go further too, we talked about large data handling, right? And we said that Google's AI Studio, Google Gemini is really good at handling so much data. And the same thing, if you go to Google Gemini by default, sometimes they might not allow you to use it, you have to pay, or it's limited. I'm gonna give you a secret on how to access Google's models, like with large context for free. So Google by default has a backdoor for developers, people who program, to test like their models using for making products with them. So it's called Google AI Studio, okay? So if you go to Google AI Studio, you have access to all those large models that we talked about, but now with unlimited basis. Just that this thing is meant for testing and not a product, so it means that some nice things that you expect from ChatGPT might not be there. But if we know the intention of why we're here, you can be able to get the best out of it. So let's say you have some really, really, really large files, and you just want to have to get some context out of it, right? Or process it, right? If you need something that needs large context, you can come to Google AI Studio. And I find that one more thing, the VPN is really picky. It usually wants USA. So I believe this is the reason why I'm having this access tonight. So let's try to switch to USA and see. I hope this doesn't mess up my stream. Google AI Studio. You see this region stuff? It's very picky with VPNs. So try to go to USA and then try to access it. That is usually the best good way of accessing it. So I believe now it should be okay. There we go. Yeah, so this by default is made for people testing AI models for their work. So it means that it's more like a raw access to the models before anybody builds a product on them. And indeed, you are experiencing so many applications that are using these models as the base. So this place is the place to try them out. But for us, an advantage is this thing can handle a huge amount of files, okay? You can be able to put large amounts of files here, and then you can have a conversation with the models. You see this? Nano Banana now is, they used to have it access here for free, but it's not available, it's paid now. But you see these models, all of these are available, and you can be able to test them out and use them to help you with anything. Because here actually the conversation it's normal, it's still AI, still conversation. So you can have this work on some things for you very cheap or free, I'd say, right? And let me get drafts. I have some PDFs here. This desktop, I don't know if it has some PDFs. I have them on this laptop, but not. Okay. This desktop is just used for coding. I don't have any. Okay, wait. I think I can find some PDFs. Everything. All right. Okay, we'll let this process for now. But yeah, this is a way to access the Google models for free. But you don't have maybe the nice features. This chart saving, it works, but maybe it might not be the standard you might have for GPT. But if you have one case where you have large amounts of text, you want to get something out of that large amount of text, this is the best way to access it. You can get all the Gemini models for free. Just make sure that your location is USA, okay? So I'll add that to the notes as well. So large data processing, Google AI Studio, like that, okay? Now we've done the analysis part, we've done academic writing, referencing, paraphrasing. Okay, now let's talk about this. Now, that thing that I was telling you about that you need to be seeing. By the way, this is UniExpert. This is an AI product that I'm working on with some people. So because I'm a software developer, so I've been taking these tips that I'm having for the things that I'm observing and also making a product with it as time goes. It's like in beta phase, so it's free. So if you guys want to use this, you can take advantage and burn money from us, because yeah. But what we want for you, as we said, this costs money, right? But what we need is feedback. So if you have any feedback, you can use it. But everything I've talked about here, I am on a roadmap to implement everything in here, right? So far we have a bunch of stuff. From all the experience I have dealing with AI, I've been like, okay, this is the thing that I want to do, including that Jenny thing, the AI academic writer, because I think that those guys have the best implementation. I am indeed also making my own version of that here. But here, the first thing is, we talked about different models, right? So here, this has become a standard. Some platforms allow you to support different models. So you can be able to burn some money with us using any of these models. As recommendations, as we said, Kimi is good for conversations. If you just want to have a good model to talk to, right? The answers are so like glowing, right? Kimi is a good model for conversations. Gemini is good for large context, as we said. Although on our platform we don't have an intentional support for large context. So don't come here and dump large files. They will not behave as you're expecting. Okay, you can upload different files that are reasonable, but as we said, for a platform to handle large context, it has to be intentional, and we don't support that yet, right? But Gemini is really good at large context. DeepSeek is good at talking, right? So if you want to feel something, that's DeepSeek. GPT, I think is more of like a good general bar for anything, right? And then, yeah. So here you can be able to use any of these models, but also all these models are available in any application. So that's what I'm trying to give you, that don't mind the product, right? Don't mind the models. Be able to use the models for the specific jobs at what they're really good at, okay? So I'm going to talk about, first thing is proofing. Let me just ask a good sample. If you're doing your thesis, there's a part where you're doing proofreading, right? So I want to hear which tools you use for proofreading, like correcting mistakes in your thesis. You've done undergrad, you've done write papers. Can I hear any? Grammarly. Another one? Grammarly, right? Anybody else have another one? All right. So here we got Grammarly, right? That's where we're going. What about paraphrasing? If you have some work, Quillbot. Okay. Anybody else has another one? Anybody has another tool used for paraphrasing? You're onto something. Exactly. I think you're seeing it. What about humanizing? I've heard some people saying like, okay.
But they have limitations.
I think you're actually getting the point. Have you gotten the point? Have you seen what? There's a constant he has mentioned throughout, right? The thing is that there are so many products that at the base it's still ChatGPT, right? If you think about proofreading, literally There are some projects that are just packaging ChatGPT. The system prompt is, your job is a proofreader. The user said this, and then they just give you the same proofreading. They do the proofreading material. You get the point? Paraphrasing, same thing. If you have ChatGPT, you can literally tell it, can you paraphrase this to do this? You get the point? And then you can get, so it's like there are so many products that now, because of misconceptions, and like, oh, right? We are now forced, or sometimes even pay for this. I've seen people who are coming to me like, help me pay for, they pay for the whole set. Grammarly, Quillbot, all these things just to be able to do the thing, because then, like, these are products. And if you think about it, and you should be intentional about this, there are some entities, there are two incentives for this, right? There are companies, it's just about money, right? So they'll package anything with any name as long as the masses are thinking that they need it for that intention. You get the point? But if all you have is these chatbot models, you can't be able to do all of this if you know what you're doing. You get the point? So you can use, you don't have to be limited. It's like, oh, I don't have Quillbot, I don't have the Pro for this because I don't have this. No, you can be able to implement this. And in that same case, right, I'm telling you that from the general chat perspective, you can be able to tell like, ChatGPT, I have written my email here, and I want it to be formal. I do this a lot because I think I have dyslexia, so like my spellings by general are not so good. I usually make mistakes a lot. So I had this thing where every time I go to the AI, like, can you paraphrase? Can you proof this for me? Can you proof this for me? You get the point? And you can have a proofreader, right? But you don't need to if you have an AI chatbot. So in that intention, if you think about it, for me, in this case, this is why I did this. In here, because I know that there's something that I do a lot, I just come here and proof. So it means that if I have a draft for an email that is important, I'll write it and then I'll proof it with this, because by default, any general AI model has the ability to proof, has the ability to paraphrase. Does that make sense? So if you know that, then you actually start to see the advantage that you can use a lot of these AI tools for multiple tasks than just one. You might not have to go to like Grammarly just to paraphrase, because your general AI chatbot of choice can be able to do that. You get the point? So in this case, you can be able to do proof, read, and paraphrase. And in this case, for me, the reason, the way I did this is like, in here, and you can try this if you want, but the idea here I'm trying to put in your mind is that you can make any AI chatbot do this. But in this case, I made it a little bit of product engineering a bit. So for example, if I say like, I market go tomorrow, right? I can just, in this case, do proof, right? And then I switch the mode of like the criteria that I want. But indeed, if you understand how this works, what is happening at the beginning, I already have a system from that says, your job is proofreading. What should you do? You should change it in this tone, and the tone is what I have given here. You get the point? So now you have this. I will go to the market tomorrow. So it means that at any tool, you have the ability to, right? We have a product. And in fact, to show you that we have a product, this thing, there's a full proofreading app in here that by the fundamental basis is just using AI, of which a lot of companies are. By a long time ago, if you go on Baidu Translate today, there's a mode for switching Baidu Translate. They have moved from traditional translation models to generative AI translation, because these models are so big and have so much knowledge that they are so good at these tasks than a dedicated model. You get the point? Because they have so much training data. So it's actually counterproductive. Somebody would just go make a model that's doing one thing than to do the generative. So you find that most products that you use now, you don't even see they are switching from using dedicated models to the generative models behind the back, right, to do the same work, because these models are so good at doing this kind of works, manipulating text. Does it make sense? So in this case, you can do. Yes. Providers. And making a product. And that's what everybody is doing, right? So there are so many AIs. Nobody's making models anymore because these models are so expensive to make. No single individual can make one, right? So there are only a handful of companies that can afford. They have the access to the data and the machines to make these models. And indeed, when you train these models, no small model that you train will be good at manipulating text than these models. So it's just obvious for you to use the best models that have been like already given to you, like available with API. So that's what everybody's doing. Everybody's switching because now there's no point. You cannot beat it. You can't beat it. Does that make sense? So now if you know that, oh, I have ChatGPT, then you don't need to go and pay for another paraphraser, all right? Because then you have that power right there with you. You get the point?
In other words, it's
Huh?
there is DeepSeek, there is ChatGPT.
Yeah. Yeah, and
It's real, it's original from the company, yeah. So other applications.
yeah,
buy
yes, they buy the usage, yes,
They integrate, they develop an application.
yes.
So instead of buying from those applications, are you commenting directly from the original company?
And in
or-
fact, if you know how to use the APIs, actually, I will tell you this: the actual value of using like API cost is much smaller than you do from the products, right? But here, as we said, right, even the providers, they know this. That's why they've been offering the APIs to say like, here the job is who can make the best product, and it's good, it's open, it's competition, right? But the thing is that right now, all the models at the base are mostly the same. It's just who can make the best product, and which is it's fair game, right? The makers of the models are intentionally offering these APIs because they know that this is a thing, and they know that this is a need for everywhere because no other models manipulating text can get as good as this, and no single individual can have any of these models having this amount of like quality and work, right? So everybody's switching. Go and buy the translate. You see, they switched. The default by now is the generative model. You can switch to the traditional one if you want, but by default it's like this. And everybody else, some people are at the base switching it without telling you because for most people they don't care. And also some branding, right? They don't want the word ChatGPT in their name, right? But they're using it at the base other way. If you're in the circles of development and you're reading the articles and you're reading technical breakdowns of stuff, you see that this is what is happening. Okay? So that's the first thing. So it means proofreading, paraphrasing, right? Translating. You can get maybe the thing that you might be looking for might be the experience. If you want an experience that is easy, right? That's fine. You can switch product. But if you don't have access to that, it means you can use any AI. And this is a practical proof. There is a full-blown translation, paraphrasing, right? I even have a CV builder in here that is still using the same technology, but just like product, packaging that and making it accessible for you to be able to do that, right? But it means that any of these models, you can be able to do that. And now the difference here would be that thing about the heaviness, as I said, right? If I tell you like, write me, let's say, let's do this like that. Let's do example. Let's get a nano model, small model. Write me, like this. Okay, I'm gonna copy this. So we're using a nano model, right? We do this. Nano models, as I said by default, are lazy, right? They are fast, but the quality of answers that you might get are less. I'm not sure if this is, okay. Now, let me duplicate this. I would like another experiment with this. So let's get a new chat. Nano. Okay, I think now the nano is really in effect. And then here, let me get, I'm gonna try in the same family, ChatGPT. I will do hi. The same answer that you get, from like a smaller model would be less like dense than a heavier model. So let's say you have proofreading work. If you want whatever work you're having, if you want heavier content, right, you get a heavier model to do the job. So as you can see in this example, right, this was the nano, right, answering the same question, and this was the main model answering the same question. So by default, if you're in a scenario where you do need anything to do any work for you that is needing like heavy material, get a bigger model. And definitely if you were to get DeepSeek here, it will probably talk a lot more than this. Okay? So that's the point. So if you're doing on the thing, if you want quick answers, the content doesn't matter, the size or the quality and heaviness, right? You can use smaller models, and then you can do smaller models. And this applies to any of these tasks that you're doing, right? Analyzing something, getting context from something, proofreading, paraphrasing, right? Those models matter, right? So you can do, and in this case, if you can have a place that you can choose which model to do the specific task, even the better based on your direction of the work. Does that make sense? Yeah, so that's proofreading, paraphrasing, and including translation. You don't need to go to Google Translate anymore, right? You can, in your same chat, you can talk to it and tell it, like, you know, translate something in Chinese or Russian, because by default, all these models are doing that. And as I said, even Baidu Translate, by default, has already moved to generative models because that it's a really good ability.
Anti-conversation also, right?
Yeah, yeah. So in this case, could even, yeah.
Do you have this option in the program?
Conversation? Like speech?
Yeah, direct.
Not yet, not yet. Mm. Yeah, but you can do any of this like that. Okay? Yeah, and in this case, so in this chat, the way from my experience on how to use the products, right? Sometimes I find myself like, I'm just talking to the model, but I just want to do proofreading, right? So I can just switch here and like go proofing or paraphrasing, and then it'll make a small thing just for the translation, right? Or the proofing like that, because I find myself doing that a lot. So you can be able to find that here. Oh, there's one more thing. This might be useful for people who are in humanities, right? For collecting data. So for collecting data, I think you have so many different tools. What do you guys use for collecting data? Anybody collecting data? Use like SaverMonkey, Google Forms, right? Yeah. Microsoft Forms. Okay, one more thing. In here, there's this thing. This is like a form builder, but by default, when you have the form, the AI has access to the data. So you can be talking to the AI as the data is being collected. So if you guys also want to try this form, like collecting data, you can try with this tool. You can do like, okay, like this one, I said. See, edit. This is like a really comprehensive form builder from like almost all the things that you find in different form builders. I had made this initially because I think I was looking to make a form, but I couldn't get all the fields that I needed for Microsoft Forms. But then the Google Forms also needed like VPN, so I ended up making this. But because this is sitting on the AI product, you can talk to the AI about your form as you're collecting the results. So this is something else that you can find in here if you're doing data collection. What else? Okay. What is now on our points? Okay, so now let's talk about humanizing. Okay, now we're going to talk about humanizing. Right, I want to talk about this. Now, the issue of, okay, let me start by question. Why do we do humanization?
Normally, when we're writing text by ourselves, for example, I can read from different papers.
Yeah.
I'll put in my own way, and that's a human way of writing.
Yeah.
So when you put through any AI detection, it doesn't exist.
Okay.
But you generate from the models.
Yeah.
It's not the pattern, you know. There are some ways to detect whether this is AI generated or not. So you keep for humanizer and you write in a way that cannot be detected by detection tools. But still, you know, the quality which is given in by the humanizer is not as expected.
So,
sometimes the debate is from the organizer.
all right. So what tool do you use for? So what do you use for humanization?
Because of the requirement of the university. If there is humanized, for example.
No. What tool do you use for the humanization itself?
You mean the model?
Yeah.
Application?
Yeah.
Humanize.ai?
Humanize.ai. All right. Anybody else who has done this humanizing? Okay.
I've only been advised that if I write to, let's say, there is a pattern that was generated by AI,
Should
better for me to
say.
write whatever was written by AI in my own words.
Mhm.
If I don't, then it can be AI.
Okay. So
First we understand why we need humanizer.
yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You understand that?
Yeah, I'm taking the
Because of the
input.
university of the environment,
Uh-huh.
the university, if you have, for example, more than antidepressant,
Uh-huh.
addiction,
Uh-huh.
you have to manage, you have to write in your own way. That's the idea. But there are tools which help for this one.
Okay.
Cannot be detected by AI.
Okay. Yeah.
I would like to know, if you try to scan a document that was created before AI,
Define.
sometimes it detects that
Huh.
it was created by AI, but
Okay.
actually you wrote it or before AI.
Yeah.
So
What?
I don't know the things that they.
That's a good point. All right. Question also, same question, right? So in the scenario that you've had people who have met so far, okay, who has been met by a professor or a submission that has told them like, this AI content is too much, can you revise it? Who has met that so far?
You mean the professor?
Not, like in any process, either submission or handing out work, who has been rejected because of AI content?
Yeah, for example,
No,
submit one-
experience-wise, who has been rejected by AI content? You have?
I'm saying I've never.
What was the situation? What was the work you're doing, and also where were you submitting it?
I'm just taking the same problem.
Right now, you are trying to submit where?
Submitting Telegram company journal.
And they told you that the AI content is too much.
They are rejecting, and then my supervisor said maybe it's because of the AI.
What was the
And
what?
then I detect internally,
Uh-huh.
and say yes.
What was the comment from the rejection?
The comment they are not mentioning specifically.
Okay. Anybody else who has experienced like the work being rejected because of AI?
Not exactly because of AI, but they commend you. You have used too much of AI or something like that.
You
But
experienced it?
most of the journal these days, what they say,
Uh-huh.
clearly they will ask you
To
have
state.
you used AI, and then you have to mention it. If you mention
Okay.
it, automatically they will reject it.
All right.
They got it.
So now let's talk about this, okay? The thing is that as of today, there is no mathematical deterministic way to determine if something has been done with AI unless you're observing the patterns or the obvious things to say, like you left some things, that says ChatGPT, made by ChatGPT, or there are patterns, those dashes, right? Or sometimes some AI models make invisible characters. As of today, there is no mathematical model or mathematical process to determine that AI is in specific content because it is just text. And indeed, this problem is being worked on. But as of today, that is not there. That's why you have scenarios like her where you're submitting an old article and it's telling you that there is AI in here. And also, that is why most of us have not actually experienced any institution telling us that our work cannot be submitted because of AI content, because there is no mathematical replicatable way as of now to enforce that. Because then you have people, as I said, remember the commercial incentive. There are people who are making products for money who are now harvesting on this mass fear of AI content for your work. I am in this field every day, and I will tell you there is no paper. And now I will bring you one more thing. All right? I went to Quillbot's page for humanizing, and I would like you to read what they have in the fine print at the bottom. This was a Google search, right? Is AI usage checking mathematically verifiable? And just read what Google has to say about this, right? AI usage checking for text is not yet definitively, universally, and mathematically verifiable, relying instead on probability, right? Probabilistic and often unrelatable estimates. Unrelated. They'll be looking for dashes. They'll be looking for patterns. They'll be looking for how, like, sometimes some AI models will just give you a lot of text with not saying anything, right? Just general. But there's no mathematical way. Because there's no mathematical way of determining it and replicating it multiple times like you have for paraphrasing. That's why the enforcement is not there yet, because you could go on one platform that tells you there's AI content, right, and another telling you there is not, with very high difference in result. That's why it's hard to enforce it as of now, because then there's no agreed mathematical way of doing it. Okay? That's point number one. Point number two, the tools you're using to humanize are still using AI. So what exactly are we doing? Because any tool that is doing humanizing is still using those AI chatbots to paraphrase. So then at the end of the day, truly, if you think about it, what have we done? I took a passage made by AI and told another AI to humanize it, to reduce AI. Have we really done anything? No. So you should be very careful, right, with the amount of, like, if you use this knowledge with whatever intentions you might have, right? If at some point any specific journal or school has told you that we're checking AI, the first thing you should ask is what tool they're going to use to verify, because it is a simpler battle to be fighting with the tool they'll be using than for you to be using a general one, because there's no standard. Okay, so if indeed you do face a roadblock, it's like by the time you submit this work, you want you to check AI, ask them, please give me which platform you'll be using, because now you can be fighting with that one, checking, right? Because as we said, there's no clearly mathematical way as of now agreed standard, because it's just text. You understand? So unless the AI is intentionally snitching on you, leaving invisible marks, of which like images now they are doing that, they're leaving invisible marks to tell, right? So unless there isn't that, or there isn't pattern, or the platform is just using some like non-deterministic, non-related ways of like looking at dashes, because some modules have specific habits, right? ChatGPT likes those dashes, you know. So if some guy might just say like, oh, if you see dashes, say there's AI, and it's fair, but it's not completely accurate. So it's not replicatable. It's not mathematically deterministic. So that's why of now there's no enforcement. And surely, if that paper comes out to mathematically define this, we are all finished. That will be enforced on the university and publishing level. But now you see people telling you, don't use AI content. But no, but that's why I asked, have you met anybody who has, like it came back and say, oh, AI, you get the point? That wasn't so obvious. Because as of now, there is no mathematical. And indeed, for whomever it might concern, even in my AI thing, I put a humanizer for whoever thinks they are doing anything. Get the point? Because if you understand how these things work, you see that what are we doing exactly? All the AI humanizing tools you're using, they're using ChatGPT at the base. They're all still using AI. You understand? So if you understand that, it means that you can focus your priorities on different things, right? You can if you're working on something and you think something is wrong and you're spending a majority of your time just reducing AI content with Turnitin, the paper will be using might not be using Turnitin, and you can reduce 0 to 10 minutes. You go to somewhere else, they'll use another tool, because there's no mathematical deterministic way. You get a totally different result. So I would recommend you that in your academic efforts, right, make sure that you're writing the work, you're making sure that your work is concrete and you're verifying your work, but don't fight with humanizers just for the sake of AI detection, because you're practically, as of now, wasting your time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like your argument. But still, the problem is, see, mathematical, logical, and 100% acceptable what you say. The problem is, as a professional,
Yeah.
you are looking things from the professional perspective, as a developer, from experience, you know. But the problem is, university
Yeah.
will insist.
So yeah, that's why.
I think the argument that you've raised is very interesting.
That's why I said that, like, if at the end of the day they tell you, right, say you should go and get the tool they're asking for, because it is a much fair battle to be fighting with the tool they will check with than any general tool. So as I'm factoring in that scenario where they will tell you like, hey, AI content, ask them which tool they're using. It would be better for you to be fighting with that tool than fighting with another tool expecting them to use. Like, you know, plagiarism is mathematically definable. Two people can do plagiarism on different, and the margin of error will be very little because it's mathematically replicatable and definable. You understand that? So that's why. But like, if you talk about like the AI detection, that's the argument that I'm giving. So the best scenario for this, and as I am factoring in that scenario that many people or platforms or journals might tell you that, right? So the best scenario is you ask which tool they're using, and then in your phase of AI reduction, you fight with that tool than for you to be generally fighting, not knowing who, you just, you know, fighting everybody. Fight intentionally with the specific tool that that school defines. Wherever you're going to submit, fight with that, because at least whatever the rules they have set as the standard, right, you can be able to find out what they are, and you fight that. That battle is much more practically resolvable, because you know that they have chosen this and do with this. You get the point? But if in your workflow there is no such standard, then you can do your work to the best ability of your work and not just fight for humanization for the sake of it. Do you get my point? But if you do have an institution or the receiving end that tells you the best approaches, find out what they'll be using, and then fight with that. And you are saying that they don't say, right? Yeah, for the same exact reason. Because probably they're not going to check because they also don't have a definitive version. You get the point? So you can do it for your sake, but I'm giving you this as actual knowledge of the industry, how it is, right? And I've given you multiple options. This is a workshop to tell you like misconceptions and everything, right? So this is just me. And indeed, that people are working on this. When that paper comes out, we will all know because it's going to be a lot more harder and solid than it is now. Now, that's why they tell you, in most journals that I've seen, they say, self-state, I used AI in my tool. You see, if it was detectable, then they would have just, but they're telling you to self-report that I have used AI in the assistance of my writing, and that is fair. You get the point? But as of now, there is no. And simpler battle, fight with the tool that they will use at the end because that's more determinable. You can try it, and then you say like, oh, it's complaining about this, you can deal with that, right? That's a more practical approach. Dealing with the tool of your submission, because if indeed that submission has that at the end of the day, that is better to be fighting with that tool because all of them will have different varying implementations, right? And I have this screenshot I took. I went to read what Quillbot wrote about this. And look, this is Quillbot's own page. If you scroll down and read, right, they'll tell you, most AI detectors can't tell the difference between text that's been created by generative AI tools such as ChatGPT, GPT-5, GPT-4, Gemini, whatever, and text that has been refined using assistant tools. This leads to false positives and cultural bias, right? Including here. For every text, you get a probability score that suggests its likely source, as with any AI detector. This score is not a guarantee. This is on Quillbot's own fine print. This score is not a guarantee. It is a useful signal when authorship matters. A useful signal. I've said this right, for any edit. This is from Quillbot, the flagship of humanizing and paraphrasing. This is them. If you scroll down, read the terms and conditions, how this is working, it's there because somebody can take them to court for this. Get the point? So they wrote it for anybody who might read. Understand? So for any single situation on this domain, the best job is you go and ask, okay, my submission, in the submission processes, do you require me, are you going to do an API check? Yes. Which tool, please? I would like to pre-check my work before I submit. That's a more fair approach than for you to worry, for days, just thinking like, oh, my work. You get the point? Do the academic work. Do the work yourself, right? Refine it. Do the work. At the end of the day, as we said, because of this scenario and this reality, you will have articles made in 1970 that will tell you there's AI because, as we said, they're using patterns and they're just signals and there's no deterministic way. Do you have any questions on that?
Nice perspective.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the thing, right? And indeed, if you need some form of restructuring or sounding more human, literally ChatGPT itself can do that by just telling it, can you write it a bit more human? That's fine. So it means any of this, because at the end of the day, if you go on the service and even pay money for it and tell you they're humanizing, they're still doing the same thing. The only difference is they've made a system from that says you are a humanizer. You make any text given to you to sound like more human, of which any AI model can do that as of now. Does it make sense? So it means that you don't need specifically to go pay for another humanizer. You can just, in your own AI chatbot, be like, hey, am I humanizing chat? Humanize this, right? And you put your own tips. You even have more control. You'd be like, I don't want this, I want this, I want this. And then from then on, in that chat, you just dump text in it, just for humanizing sake. You get the point? Yeah. So this is my knowledge, sharing with you, dealing with these things every day. Any questions on this? Any questions? Huh? In what? Oh, nailed it. Okay.
Well done.
Thank you. Okay. But I really wanted to have this session because I think there's so much that, like, these AI tools, you know, they are here to stay, right? So if you can find I find that for any workflow, right, you have, there's two parties, right? People are against AI and then some are for AI, right? I think that in this age, whatever you do, right, there are certain mundane things that you might not be the core focus of your work, right? Somebody is doing, like say, doing a humanities, right? And they probably have a lot more work to do than this. They have models to design, right? They have data to collect, right? They have all these things. And some of these hiccups that you might face that might be mundane but might not be specifically your workflow, right? Your bar, you know, your measuring phenomena, right? You can use these tools to help you with your work. In whatever work you do, if you were able to do things like 10 things in a month, right? If you use AI wisely with all of these tips in mind, you can do 10 times or 3 times more work faster, right? Because you know this too. The only thing is, don't just generally like put something and then expect, you know, amazing results. You have to be intentional about the things you're using. You have to be intentional of the output. You have to give it all the important context, give it all the tools necessary to do your job right, and then you get a really, really good result. And then you can move faster, and surely this is there to stay. So if you don't embrace the tools to help you move faster, surely those who are will, and you will be left behind, right? And you have to be able to find a balance, right, between doing your job and also effectively using these tools, and also being informed about this stuff, because this stuff is changing all the time. And sometimes if you just listen to everything that people post, you end up being misled or don't get the best use of these tools, right? Yeah, so that's it. I think I think I gave. Oh, this is a bonus. This is a bonus. Do you have an undergrad here? Nobody. I have. This is another. It's just that scenario that I talked about in the beginning about my sister, who was preparing for an exam, right? It's a postgrad, like it's a chartered accounting, right? So she has books, but she wants to. Passwords, me and passwords. Wait, give me a minute. Let me see somewhere. Oh, actually, I have a couple of bonuses. So these are some half-baked implementations of certain things that you might be useful in specific application area, and as of they're free. If you want to use them, use them. Okay. So I'm looking for. I'm looking for an account for this. So these next two examples, and indeed, right, you should be able to also look for extra tools that are specific for your intention. Look for tools sometimes. Like, I think there's even, oh my God, I forgot the link. There's a list of, like, there's a website with tools, AI tools, right? An aggregate for AI tools. I'll get that one. Please remind me later. Be free to try out new tools that are intentionally doing a specific direction, and then just give it a shot. For most of these tools will have free tiers. Take advantage of them. So these two products are mostly for people who have exam-based preparation, right? Most of us are just, it's more heavier articles and theses that are our end goal. But for undergrads and some people, like for example, my sister was trying to prepare for a chartered accounting exam. Their goal orientation is exam, right? So if you're not cheating, you have to prepare, right? And these are two tools that I recommend that are all in development, but since free, since you can use them for if you're intending to prepare for an exam. This is my interpretation of what I think a good exam preparation tool would be, but there are plenty. You can try them out. So you can try this one. It's free. Burn the money. It's fine. This one is more of like, for me, when I think of like exam preparation, right? If you go on ChatGPT, the thing about a chat interface is that if I'm preparing for an exam and I'm studying, I'll have all the answers on the thing. So it's like if you are preparing for an exam, if you're just reading all the answers, you're not doing anything, it would be good if you have something that can be able to actually self-examine you after reading, because then truly, traditional way before AI, the only way to pass an exam is for you to study and then self-test until you're ready. You know all the alternatives of your questions until you're ready to answer those things, right? So this is, if you're preparing for an exam, this is something you can try out. Uh, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. All right. So for this thing, it's divided in multiple sections. So this is general AI chat, because there are times when you just want to talk to an AI about your work. I made this as an answer to what I said before. My sister had these large PDFs, and she went to ChatGPT and asked it questions, and it started like answering nonsense, and she was arguing with it because when she went to look at the pages it was referencing, they were not relevant. And as we said, the issue there is the context, right? So in AI models, there's an approach to handling large amounts of data. It's called RAG, Retrieval Augmented something. Retrieval Augmented something, I think. The idea is, normally, all the AI models don't understand words per se. They understand vectors, okay? So in every single conversation you're having, the text is transformed into vectors, and then they map it on a graph to say like, oh, then the probability of the answers are coming from here based on that vectorized message. So the approach for handling large amounts of text, of which now a lot of AIs are doing, it's called RAG, where you take the books, you take the material, turn it into numbers, and then every time somebody asks a question, you turn those into numbers, you put it on a graph, and then you see which documents to reference. Okay? So that's the technical understanding of what is happening behind the box. Okay? So if you have large amounts of text, and I believe that probably Jenny also using a combination of this, you can be able now to ask a question, and then from a large amount of text, find relevant passages, because based on probability and vectorization, you can be able to map it. So like, this document has this text in this area that is relevant to the words that are also being mapped on the same area. Does that make sense? So yes. Mm-hmm. So now in this one, since it's an exam preparation tool, we have a general AI chat where if you have documents that you're studying that are huge, you can upload them, and then this AI chat, it can answer questions based on RAG, right? So these references are real because now they are using RAG, right? So in here you can like talk to it, and then when it suggests something from your books, if you click the page, it takes you to the page, to the book on the exact page. So this is my interpretation of, if I was preparing for an exam today, I would want something like this. I would want something that has my books that I'm preparing for, a general chat if I want to just talk to, if I just want to have a conversation that is referencing my documents, a way to manage my documents, to say which ones are books, which ones are manuals, and which ones are exam sample papers. And then also, I would like the AI to generate a syllabus for me based on my books. To be like, this is a study plan for your exam. In the beginning, you can say, like, actually here, you can say, I am preparing for this exam. And with all of that, this is good context to have an AI make a good syllabus for you. If it was just ChatGPT, it means you paste this, and then over time, that is being lost with words, right? Like if you made a syllabus, and then later on you need to reference it, and then later on you need to make a new chat. But in this case, if it's saved somewhere else, it's always taken into account that here what we're doing is we're studying for this accounting exam, right? And then you can change this. You can change it to HSK, you can change it to any Chinese exam, change it to any exam, right? And then you upload the documents you want. Then it can generate for you a study plan. And that study plan can be key objectives. You can add YouTube videos in it if you want. And later on, the idea here is I want to be getting the script for the YouTube videos so that it's also context for the conversation. So it means that if you have multiple YouTube videos and you're like, I watched this video, that video, and this video, then it's actually context for you studying the chapter, right? And then it can suggest passages from your books. So the way to use this is you come here from your syllabus, and then you enter like accounting, finances, and then it tells you the objective we have here is this one, right? And then videos, these are manual. You can add, the idea is you should be studying here, not like going like other places. So you can add the YouTube videos you want and watch them. And then reading, then it will give you the passages from the books that you submitted. Like in this, with this objective, these are the chapters and areas to study, right? And you can add more if you want from this book, page to page, and then you can write notes if you want. And then at the end of the day, it can make an exam for you, which would be determined based on all the objectives, the material referenced in the book, your exam course and the syllabus, and then you can actually take the exam. Because I think indeed, if you are planning for an exam, you need to revise many times so that you know different ways and questions can be asked and you can answer them. And then you can feel like me because then I don't know anything about accounting. And then you can grade yourself and then factor that all in your preparation and then revise that over and over for your exam preparation. So if you are preparing for an exam and you want a tool, you can try this out. It's free. But also you can look at other exam-based applications. I do think that for any application that is dealing with exams, I think, 30%. So I think that any tool that you're preparing for an exam shouldn't be general chat based, but it should be something that can give you an exam, because then you're revising. That's the traditional way how we used to prepare for exams, right? And a general chat might not be the most efficient for you to do that. But an application that is using AI at the base, but allowing you to generate exams where you don't see the answers, right, and is grading you after, is a better approach. I think I have another one here. Another bonus. Wait, are we okay on YouTube? Why am I getting messages? All right, cool. Another bonus we have here is, let me find my files. So I think this is the last thing. Our time also is up. If you have any questions, please bring them up so that I can answer those. Yeah, I think we're 12 minutes into our thing, so I think now we are done. Let me get that from Kevin. Okay. So this one is an application made by somebody who is a medical student who also has the interpretation of how to prepare for an exam with an student. So I saw it, he was making it, I thought it was interesting, and I thought that maybe you guys could look at it. But my idea here is any tool that is preparing for an exam, this is my advice for you, something that does this where you give it content and then it examines you is the best way of preparing for exams. So this thing is like flashcards. So this is the interpretation of like preparing for an exam, but with flashcards. So you enter the platform, you say which exam you're preparing for, and then it randomly or periodically gives you flashcards to test you for what you're studying, right? So if you're looking for an exam tool, I think these kind of tools are there, and you can try it out. And I think this one also is available, so you can also give it a shot. I'll leave these in the notes that I'm going to give after. Do I have any questions? So I think I've covered so many things. Any questions? No questions? We're good, right?
Maybe you share the
Yeah. So okay, cool. So this
the traditional practical program or another?
it's the AI group.
New one?
Wait.
That is last time.
No. So you see, we have an AI group. Yeah. So wait, this one is not led by me. It's led by it's called Dr. Rice, right? So he's enthusiastic about AI, and I work with him on some projects. So this group is generally for anything AI. So if you want to talk about AI, if you saw something AI, if you want to learn about if the AI tips, this is where we just talk about them. So I think this is the best place to talk about this, because the programming group is for programmers, right? And this is a general place for us just to talk about AI. Yeah. So if you have any tips, if you see anything, also if that paper drops, the one for determining AI, I'll put it in there. But yeah, as of now, that is just a really group you can talk about. If you have any topic AI, if you saw something interesting, bring it up. This is the group for that, okay? Just AI Club, all right? Any questions? Any other questions? And this guide I was writing on the side with the links, I will share that as a PDF, all right? Any questions? Online, any questions? Oh, I have questions. All right. Retrieval augmented generation. Yes, thank you. Most journals would submit your work and they will check AI. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Are we good? I hope this was useful, and I hope that you can apply some of these in your workflows, and I hope it makes it better. If you have any questions or experiments or something, please let me know. I'm always in the lab. If you want to bother me with something. Jen who? Yeah.
on the 11th floor.
Yeah. So I'm always there. Anything AI or programming, I'm excited about it. I can talk about it for a long time. So if you have any of that stuff, or if you have a problem with your dialysis, as we said, with these tools, you can deal with anything. I don't even have to know it, right? With this workflow, you can be able to deal with it. I've been able to help other people who are in domains I don't know about, but knowing this workflow, truly, you can be able to get through anything, right? So yeah, get that GitHub application, get that workflow, and try it for your work. It doesn't matter what it is. It can assist you in headaches that you're having for months. There are people that I met, there were months, struggling with certain areas, but you can deal with this workflow. So, and all of these tips. So, anything, please talk about it with me, inbox, or the group. I think that's it from me. We're done here. Okay, thank you so much. All right, so those online. Yeah, see you next time. All right, cool. That's cool. Right? It's, yeah.
For example, from computer science,
Yeah, but product. I'm also in the product space.
from developer perspective.
Yeah.
The PhD also from research perspective.
Yeah.
So sometimes whatever you are PhD or whatever,
Yeah.
better to attend because these people have.
You learn. You can get one or two things.
And
Yeah.
Today's session is really important.
Yeah. No, thank you guys for coming as well, and hopefully let's make some important things happen. All right. Anybody who has any questions, let me know now. Anybody who has installation problems? Okay.